YouTube. Let's just get going on TikTok as well. Let's see. Let's take this over here. How do I resize this? There we go. And let's connect that. Let's see. Okay. I think that's all working there. Let me just announce this on my Discord real quick. A lot of stuff to talk about that I want to go over. And maybe do some debates depending on if we can get any people on. Okay. Okay. Yes, welcome Patriots. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. I know I already made a video about it, but this Fulton County election thing is so insane to me, and the fact that it was just a blip. It's not that should be like one of the biggest stories in all of American history, but I guess it's just another day of Trump's second term. And then I also want to go over this court order from a judge who said that in the month of January alone, this is so insane. In the month of January alone, ICE has violated more court orders, according to this judge, than some agencies have in their entire existence. This is what's why the frog in boiling water analogy is really important here. The severity of the stuff these people are doing is starting to creep up like slowly, and they are really good at managing expectations. Like the fact that Trump backed down at all on the Alex Preddy thing, even though he's objectively still completely mishandled it, his administration mishandled it, everyone involved should be fired, investigated, etc. But even him backing down a little bit is seen as this massive win. Oh, can you believe that Trump didn't immediately call him a domestic terrorist? He actually pulled back a little bit. The bar is so low now, and they're taking advantage of that. And I don't think it's any coincidence that very shortly after the Alex Preddy thing happened, and you have Pam Bondi basically using like mafia tactics on Minnesota, saying, oh, we'll pull ICE out if you give us your voting records. After that, within like a day or two, you have Tulsi Gabbard being present at this raid, or I guess search warrant executed by the FBI at the Fulton County Election Office. It's so obvious what's happening here. It's so clear. And the fact that the media just refuses to connect the dots is frustrating. Like, these people have at least half a dozen ways they can interfere with the next election. So it's like, if they try all six and one of them doesn't work, two of them doesn't work, they have a bunch of backup plans ready as well. Okay, we have a couple guest requests. Hey, how old are you? And do you disagree with any of the prompts on the screen right now? Okay. Okay. That's kind of irrelevant to the point whether or not she has the right. I mean, anyone can make a request, but when it's being leveraged with, like, you know, if you guys want us to pull out the people from your state that are killing people in the streets, we'll do that if you give us the voting records, right? That's kind of the issue. I didn't argue it was illegal to ask for those records. I don't know what the point of this is. Because the Trump administration wants to use them to meddle with elections. Doesn't that make a... No, it's not just my... No, it's not just my opinion. There's a literal executive order draft that exists online, drafted during Trump's first term, which basically instructs the DHS and the DNI to take voting records and voting machines and use them to analyze the fraud that allegedly the ghost of Hugo Chavez was, like, possessing these voting machines. Their plans are all out there in the public. They don't necessarily hide this. It's not just my opinion. So if this was an administration that has been acting in good faith and they're like, hey, we want to cooperate with you, we're going to investigate these ICE officers, which should have never been there in the first place, and we want to cooperate with you on election integrity, a state can choose to do that if they want. They have the right to refuse also, unless there's actual legitimate criminal prosecution there. But regardless of whether it's legal or illegal, They want to take those records to meddle with elections. I don't really care whether it's legal or illegal. It's not really the question. Sure. It was 1,000,000% relevant to the, you asked me if it was illegal, and that's not really a claim I made. So I'm explaining what the relevance of the incident is. Which federal law? Is it, wait, is it your contention that the federal government can demand voting records from states for like no good reason and the states are forced to hand it over? Can you answer that question? Can you just answer that question? Okay. Okay, go ahead. Your voice is chopping in and out. I don't know if you're on bad Wi-Fi or is everyone else hearing that? It's like your microphone's like popping. Okay, that's better. Just by request? Because that's not even what they did here. They used an actual. Are you talking about Minnesota or Georgia here? Okay, can you just point me to which federal law that would be? Because it's my understanding that election rules are left up to the states in accordance with the 10th Amendment. Maybe they repealed that. Okay, cool. Sure. Man, you notice how it's always like with MAGA people, it's never a question of is this okay? It's like, well, it's legal technically, right? It's legal technically. Although I've never heard in my life of a law that compels state governments to hand over voting rolls to the federal government without any sort of underlying criminal indictment. So I'm excited to hear what he's about to share with us. It's because MAGA has no morals. Okay. Okay. His proof won't be proof. We'll see. We'll see. We'll look it up. We'll fact check him. I'll search it up. Yep, U.S. code. Like 2070. Okay. 3. That's it. There are multiple distinct sections in the U.S. code that fit this number. Like, yeah, aren't there like overarching pillars these would fall under? Like 49 USC, 36 USC. Which USC is this? Oh no, is that what you're going to bring up? Okay. What is the actual like number that comes before USC for this law? Okay. Okay, so it's 52 USC. That's what I was trying to ask you. Any record or paper required by section 2071 of this title. So let's open that as well. Let's see. Hold on. Do me a favor and leave the live, and I'll add you back up in 1 second. It won't let me switch to screen share if there's a guest in here. I want to put it up on the screen. I want to put it up on the screen. You can hop back in the guest box immediately. I just want to switch the scene. There we go. What's going on here? Okay, you can hop back in the guest box now. Let me switch the scene on YouTube as well. There we go. I can zoom in. See? Every officer of election shall retain and preserve for a period of 22 months from the date of any general, special, or primary election of which candidates for the office of President, Vice President, Presidential Elector, Member of the Senate, Member of the House of Representatives, or Resident Commissioner from the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico are voted for, all records and papers which come into this possession or into his possession relating to any application, registration, payment of poll tax, or other act requisite to voting in such election, except that when required by law, such records and papers may be delivered to another officer of election, and except that if the state or the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico designates a custodian to retain and preserve these records and papers at a specified place. Can we just agree that the 2020 election was more than 22 months ago before we continue reading this? I'm just reading. Can we just agree that was more than 22 months ago? That's all I'm asking. Because this is the law referenced by 2073. So first I want to read this law that it's referencing, and then we can. Well, it seems like you're trying to reinterpret a civil rights law that is not connected to overturning election results and say that this can be used in bad faith. And wait, why can't I just finish reading it? You implied that, then I'll say. You implied that, then I'll say. Yeah, you're making excuses for what happened here. You're clearly making excuses for what happened here. Wait, why are you now filibustering your own proof? I'm reading your own evidence. Why are you interrupting me reading your own evidence? I looked it up because you said it. No, I started reading it. If you were listening, this law, well, not if you're talking random shit. Hold on. I said I was going to pull it up and read the law, and now you're filibustering. Yes, I am. Is this not it? Demand for records or papers by Attorney General or Representative? This isn't it? Hold on. I was reading that one, and any record or paper required by Section 20701. Why wouldn't I then read that? It's referencing that in this law. I'm going to read this first because it's in this. Okay, fantastic. That's what I was doing. You're reading the one that's referenced in the one you're asking me to read. You want me to ignore the context? Why do you want me to ignore the context? I'm not saying it hurts or helps your argument. I'm trying to understand the law. Why are you so scared of this? I'm literally reading what you told me to read. Please, say something that makes sense. If you don't act in bad faith, then I'd love to.
The Attorney General, if you read the other one, the first one, it states
Which voting records? I just want to be super specific here. Which voting records can the Attorney General request based on this law? All of them? All of them? Or the ones required by Section 20701, which you don't want me to read. So, hold on. These are the records subject. I'm not saying it hurts your point. I'm trying to read the law that you brought up. If you have an issue with me trying to understand the law, that's on you. Can everyone see this guy's complaining that I'm reading what he told me to read? Yeah. You argue just like him. I'm not saying it's an argument you're making. You want me to read this law, and you don't want me to finish it. Your voice is chopping in and out a lot. Awesome. Yes. Every officer of election shall retain and preserve for a period of 22 months from the date of any general, special, or primary election of which candidates for the President, VP, presidential elector, member of the Senate, member of the House of Representatives, or resident commissioner of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico are voted for, all records and papers which come into his possession relating to any application, registration, payment, or of poll tax, or other act requisite to voting in such election, except that when required by law, such records and papers may be delivered. What do you mean that's far enough? Why do you always cut me off from finishing? No, this is so bad faith. You ask me to read a law and then you cut me off halfway. You've done this like 5 times. No, you interrupt constantly. You interrupt your own argument. Why are you so scared of me finishing reading this? Then wait, why can't I just finish this and then you can talk? No, we haven't finished it though. We haven't finished it. I haven't finished it. You cut off at the same part every single time, which is weird. Number one, I never claimed that. I never claimed that. All I asked you is, can we agree the 2020 election was more than 22 months ago? All I asked you. So now, can we read the whole statute? Can we now read the whole statute? You're asking me to analyze a law I haven't finished reading, which is weird. Why can't I just finish reading it? Asking to read a law that he himself referenced as bad faith. No, I'm actually trying to read the law in context, and you don't want the context. You don't want the context. If you speak about something relevant.
I'm not scared, but listen to what this is what you're doing, Adam. You read the law.
Yes.
You read the law that you said
that you're
doesn't exist.
I never said
no, it doesn't.
Exist.
Can you read that? Read it.
When
read
did
it,
I say this law doesn't exist?
Just read that.
When did I say this law doesn't exist?
You want to put $500 that you said it doesn't?
You asked me when you hopped on. You asked me when you hopped on.
$500 saying that you said it didn't exist.
You asked me when you hopped on, and I'm not muting you. If you want to have an actual back and forth here,
why are you so scared to take that bet?
If you want to let me respond to your argument,
you're not even letting me
respond,
Adam.
Why don't you just let me respond to your argument? I haven't muted you. I could mute you. I could mute you. I haven't muted you.
Just interrupting me whenever I'm making a point.
You hopped onto this live
just a second ago.
You hopped onto this live to debate the legality of Pam Bondi doing this, and you remember what I said?
You said, I'm not aware of any federal law.
I said, I don't care whether it's legal or not. They're doing it to meddle with elections.
That doesn't, okay.
Did I or did I not say that? Did I or did I not say that?
And that's fine.
Did I or did I not say that?
That wasn't my claim.
Did I or did I not say that?
I was not disputing that.
Did I or did I not say that?
I was not disputing that, so it doesn't even matter.
Did I not say that?
That's fine if you said it, Adam, but that doesn't mean that I was sitting there disputing it.
What do you mean if?
I wasn't disputing it.
Did I? Okay, so you agree that what I said is nothing to do with the legality. I said whether or not it's illegal, they're trying to meddle with elections.
And then you challenged me on the legality, Adam.
I just asked you to cite the law.
Legality.
I asked you to cite the law.
Okay, I'm going to let you finish talking, and then I want to talk. Go ahead.
You can go ahead.
Get what you need to say. No, you haven't. So you're just going to keep interrupting me if I even talk.
It just seems like you're afraid of the context. You have a talking point prepared.
I'm not
and if
afraid
I try
of the
to go
context.
deeper into the talking point, you
Adam,
just start
I'm not afraid of the
filibustering.
context.
I'm not
filibustering. You're the one that actually filibustering.
I was just trying to finish reading the law.
Okay, I'm going to wait till I can talk because you're just going to keep interrupting me. If you don't want to have an actual conversation, it's fine. But if you do,
have an
can you just
actual
please let me talk?
conversation, and everyone here has seen what you've been doing, so that's fine.
So can I actually?
You're
speak
saying
real
that
quick,
it's mine.
Adam,
I have the floor now, so I will take the floor. I was complaining about Pam Bondi using mafia-style tactics to try to pressure Minnesota and say we will only pull ICE out if you give us your voting records. And you hopped on and said, "Well, is that illegal, though?" I said, "I don't really care whether or not it's legal because the reason they're doing it is to meddle with elections." Then you said the Attorney General can request these records, and I asked you for any reason, and you were like, "Yes." And all I asked you is, "Which law is that?" And I tried to read the law, and you kept interrupting me when I tried reading the law. That's where we're at right now. You can go ahead. Okay. Never said it. Never said that. You're straw manning me. You're straw manning me. It's because you're straw manning me. Did I or did I not say I don't care whether it's legal? Just answer that. Just answer that. Your voice is cutting out a lot. It's because when you start speaking, you start lying off rip. You start lying off rip. Did I or did I not say... No. If you don't answer this, if you answer this one question, you can speak for an hour. If you answer this one question, you can speak for an hour. Did I or did I not say, I don't care whether it's legal or illegal, they want to meddle with elections? Yes or no, did I say that? Yes or no? I did say that. Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. You just said that I claimed she didn't have the authority. You just start strawmanning me again. You're just okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Then what did I say? Don't lie about the order of events. Just don't lie about the order of events. What did I say then? You're skipping parts of the conversation. Just don't skip them. Everyone hears what I'm saying, right? You can have the floor if you don't lie. And don't run away now. I hope you don't run. You're lying. You're lying. You're lying, though. Because you're lying. Just don't lie and you can talk. Don't misrepresent what I said in this conversation. Don't misrepresent. You told me that's your opinion, then what did I say back to you? You said that's just my opinion. I said, no, that's a fact. I did, and then I referenced the executive order draft from Trump's first term. Yes. I can pull it up right now. Hold on. Yes. Same topic. Exact same topic, but that's okay. Do you see this? This is an executive order draft which instructs voting records to be seized so they can investigate fraud that never existed. And the way we know it never existed is the pretext used in the beginning of this executive order talks about foreign governments hacking our voting machines. That was a theory created by Sidney Powell, and Trump in private admitted it was a stupid theory that wasn't true. Address that. Just address it. Everyone can see who wrote this. Yes, you can. Just let me know when you want to address this. Just let me know when you want to address. Let me know when you want to address anything I just said. Just address what I said, though. You just said something unrelated. Don't run away.
Andrew completely destroyed you.
Yeah,
and I see why.
He said, was that when he said that zero sum means no compromise, no negotiation, no nothing?
You have no IQ, man. You have literally no IQ.
I just asked you to address what I said.
And
you didn't do that.
You know, it's funny to me how Mondami's mom was in the Epstein files, and
it's nothing to do with anything we're talking about, but okay.
I mean, it's just funny to me. Okay, it's just funny to me. It's just fun. You know, maybe he was involved. Maybe his mom was involved.
Let me know when this guy wants to respond to a single argument I've made. He's just talking to himself.
I'm just saying, dude. Maybe Mondami had a little. You know, Mondami's mom had. Yeah, because it's just. I'm just throwing out opinions, just like you, right? I don't have any actual hard evidence.
An opinion
of like.
This is not an opinion.
No,
it's a document
that's what you're doing. That's what.
It's a document that exists.
Yeah. But guess what? Does it say we're doing it to meddle with elections? We're doing it to meddle with elections.
I have evidence.
It says that they're doing an investigation, which they have every right to.
I have evidence.
You've just pulled up a piece of paper saying, "Hey, we're going to investigate the 2020 election." That's not evidence, dude. You're running from the actual
do you want
point
Trump
that I
admitting
made.
that it's a lie?
Oh man, you have a good night, Adam.
Don't leave. Don't leave when I'm going to pull up the evidence of Trump. Wait, why are they investigating it? Hold, you're gonna run away? If he runs away, he knows he's caught. Okay, this is crazy. Because I'm pulling up. That's not how that works. Don't run. Is he gonna run? He ran. They always run, bro. They're so cocky and then they run. It's insane. And I know YouTube's having some audio issues, so I'll try to get that fixed by uploading the VOD with the TikTok audio. So just to be clear, this is an executive order draft from Trump's first term where he says, for all these stated reasons, we have to seize all machines, equipment, and information and records. Basically saying we have to go in and seize all these voting records, seize all these voting machines, right? The reason they give for why they have to do this seizure is in the beginning of the document where they say that there was foreign interference where our voting machines like Dominion and Smartmatic were hacked. Foreign governments hacked our voting machines. Where did that theory come from? Does anyone know? That theory came from a lawyer named Sidney Powell. What did Trump say about Sidney Powell's theories? Trump advanced claims of fraud despite knowing they were false, describing how he told others that allegations of election regularity made by attorney Sidney Powell were, quote, crazy, and referenced the science fiction series Star Trek. Even so, days later, he promoted on the platform then known as Twitter a lawsuit she was about to file. So here we have Trump admitting that Sidney Powell's claims of foreign governments hacking our voting machines are crazy and similar to Star Trek, and then those same claims are used in this executive order as the reason that would justify National Guard going into polling places to seize their voting machines. And now let's actually read the law this guy was referencing, because I'm curious, what is the statutory authority he claims exists here? Designates a custodian to retain and preserve these records and papers at a specified place. Then such records and papers may be deposited with such custodian, and the duty to retain and preserve any record or paper so deposited shall devolve upon such custodian. Okay. Any record or paper required by Section 20701 to be retained and preserved shall, upon demand in writing from the Attorney General or his representative directed to the person having custody, possession, or control of such paper records, be made available for inspection, reproduction, and copying at the principal office of such custodian by the Attorney General or his representative. This demand shall contain a statement of the basis and purpose therefore. So already, now I can see why he didn't want us to read this. Already this is saying that the Attorney General can request voting records that are required to be held in accordance with this other law. So already we're saying only records in accordance with this other law are subject to this request from the Attorney General. And then even when the Attorney General can request that subsection of voting records, they have to contain a statement of the basis and the purpose therefore. Now let's just read Pam Bondi letter to Minnesota. Is this it? About the voting records. No, this is to Pam Bondi. Oh, man. Hold on. Does anyone know where the PDF for this is? Pam Bondi letter requesting voting machines from Minnesota PDF. Bro, why is everything a fucking subscription? Okay, hold on. Let me turn this off, and let me turn this off, and let me pull it up real quick. 1 second, Patriots. Just give me 1 moment. Bear with me. Let me just peacefully and patriotically pull this up. Okay, there we go. Man, I can see now why he was filibustering so hard. Governor Walz, the state of Minnesota, has refused to enforce. So just remember, guys, under this guy's claim, He's referencing this part of the Civil Rights Act, which says that the Attorney General can request records specifically encompassed by Section 20701 of this title, and even when requesting that specific subsection of records, she has to provide a statement of the basis and purpose therefore. So now let's see if she does that in her request, which is right here. The state of Minnesota has refused to enforce law, and the consequences are heartbreaking. Americans are watching politicians ignore federal immigration law, criminals attack federal law enforcement, and rioters storm churches. I write to urge a change. By the way, this right off the bat is a lie. When they talk about all these rioters and dangerous people, if you go and read the Trump-appointed judge in Portland who evaluated whether or not they could federalize the National Guard, the judge said in her ruling, wait a second. One of the examples you guys gave me of why you need the National Guard is that someone had a flashlight shined in their eye. Why would a flashlight being shined in someone's eye be serious or severe enough to invoke the National Guard against the consent of the state governor? And a lot of the instances of violence outside the ICE facility was violence between protesters and counter-protesters, not between protesters and ICE agents. So let's read this. In December 2025, the Department of Homeland Security launched Operation Metro Surge to protect Americans from the dangers presented by unchecked illegal immigration, including violent crime and drug trafficking. Since the beginning of this operation, law enforcement has put themselves in harm's way to arrest dangerous criminals, including members of notorious violent gangs. Criminal illegal aliens convicted of homicide, drug trafficking, sexual assault against a child, or rape with a weapon, and other horrific crimes are now off the streets because of Operation Metro Surge. Unfortunately, you and other Minnesota officials have refused to support the men and women risking their lives to protect Americans and uphold the rule of law. Because Minnesota, Minneapolis, and St. Paul have chosen to ignore federal immigration law by enacting sanctuary laws and policies, which, by the way, they have the complete right to do under the 10th Amendment, the federal agents led by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and U.S. Customs and Border Protection have operated alone. Again, fully legal, their right to do. And politicians in your state are not just refusing to help these agents, they are putting federal agents in danger. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey said, ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. How is that putting them in danger? How is that putting anyone in danger? They're just saying, get the fuck out. He can say that. You refer to our law enforcement as, quote, Trump's modern day Gestapo. Maybe because they're acting like that and you're hiring them like that. Minneapolis City Council member Aisha Chugtai stated that the city, quote, must be ready to act as the last line of defense for targeted communities. So, yeah, if agents commit a crime, then state officials should prosecute the crime. This has been established in Idaho versus Horiuchi. There's case law for this. Federal officers are not immune from state criminal charges if they commit a state crime. I don't know where this idea came from of absolute immunity. So already, before we finish this, and thank you to Dyson for the $25 on Cash App. Go buy some news subscriptions, liberal. Official QRZ. Thank you. I actually have the New York Times subscription. I was just in a Google Chrome incognito tab and I wasn't logged in, but I opened up Safari. Thank you. Can we get some W's for Dyson on Cash App? So already, by the way, this letter, which allegedly gives the statutory authority for the Attorney General to request these records, according to the last guy we just talked to, already twice has referenced flat-out lies. Just things that are made up, and judges have proven they're made up. So already, take this with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of shit, because she's referencing lies in order to request these records. So why would we take this with any seriousness? Let's see. City must be ready to act as the last line of defense for targeted communities. True. By the way, if you are a state police officer and you see a federal agent committing a crime, you can and should press charges. Why would you? That's not inciting. These people are like, we're going to do a bunch of authoritarian stuff. And then if you call us authoritarian, we're going to say that you're inciting violence against us as an excuse to do more authoritarian stuff. How do people not realize what that is? They fall for it so quickly. The results of your state's policies and politicians' anti-law enforcement rhetoric. And why does my screen share keep freezing? This is so fucking annoying, bro. Parishioners were met by anti-ICE mob last weekend as several dozen individuals stormed cities. Okay, this is just her making stuff up and exaggerating stuff that's happened to ICE allegedly. The lawlessness in the streets is matched by the unprecedented financial fraud occurring on your watch, and the out-of-control fraud in your state also implicates election security. According to what? Where? At least with the fraud, there are indictments here. On what basis is it being claimed that election security has been compromised? Maybe I should keep reading. It is a tragedy that Americans have lost faith in Minnesota's ability to keep its taxpayers' funds secure and citizens safe. You and your office must restore the rule of law, support ICE officers, and bring an end to the chaos in Minnesota, the chaos being caused by ICE. Fortunately, there are some common sense solutions to these problems that I hope we can accomplish together. This is where the blackmail comes into play. First, it's not even just a suggestion. First, share all of Minnesota's records on Medicaid and food and nutrition service programs, including the SNAP program data, with the federal government, allowing the federal government to efficiently investigate fraud will save Minnesota taxpayers money and ensure that Minnesota welfare funds are being used to help those in need and not enrich fraudsters. Just by the way, why would any state or local government trust the federal government here when we know for a fact they're weaponizing the justice system and that Trump is pardoning fraudsters? Why would they take this seriously? We want to go after criminals and fraudsters. You pardon fraudsters and you indict people for doing nothing. Letitia James, James Comey, and before one of the MAGA people here is like, well, what if Letitia James and James Comey actually committed a crime and that's where they were indicted? They kind of threw you under the bus on that one, guys. Sorry to tell you, Susie Wiles, Trump's chief of staff, did an interview and she said, yeah, all those indictments are vindictive. They're revenge. She admitted it. She said, I tried to tell Trump, okay, only do revenge for the first 5 months, then no more revenge. And in the interview, she says, yeah, it's not exactly going to plan because he's still doing political persecutions even after our agreed upon debt. It's like how someone would make a deal with a fucking toddler of like, okay, you can have one piece of candy, but then you have to finish your broccoli, okay? And then the kid just fucking throws his broccoli out the window and steals the entire bag of candy. Donald, you agreed you wouldn't do that, buddy. That's literally what's happening here. So why the fuck would any state government assume good faith on behalf of the federal government? Why would they assume this is actually about fraud? Makes no sense. Second, repeal the sanctuary policies. So this is, again, sanctuary state policies, whether you like them or not, are covered by the 10th Amendment. Okay? That is their right. How they want to conduct local and state law enforcement is 1,000,000% their right to figure out. And here we have them saying, if you want us, remember the context. This letter is issued right after Alex Preddy is executed like a stray dog in the street in broad daylight, in the most dehumanizing way possible. This is how the Attorney General of the United States responds. You guys caused this. You're being rowdy, a little too rambunctious for my liking. But hey, it doesn't have to be a problem. Just hand over all of your welfare records so we can start indicting people when we know that they indict people based on political vendettas and personal grudges. And now they're saying, not just that, we want to now interfere with your state's rights. Repeal sanctuary policies that have led to so much crime and violence in your state. Removing criminal illegal aliens from Minnesota and from Minnesota neighborhoods will save lives. And state and local officials should support this goal. You know what else would save lives? ICE not taking lives would save them, maybe. All detention facilities in your state should cooperate fully with ICE, honor immigration detainers, and permit ICE to interview detainees in custody to determine immigration status. I urge you to reach an agreement with ICE that allows them to remove illegal aliens in custody in Minnesota's prisons and jails and avoids pushing these interactions into your streets. Third. Hold on. allow the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ to access voter rolls to confirm that Minnesota's voter registration practices comply with federal law as authorized by the Civil Rights Act of 1960. Fulfilling this common sense request will better guarantee free and fair elections and boost confidence in rule of law. Well, didn't we just say when we were reading this law, which is so funny, when you fact check these guys, when I look up the law he himself cited, he was so clearly bringing it up in bad faith without even knowing what the fuck it is. The demand has to contain statement of the basis and the purpose therefore. There's no basis that's been given here. There's purpose, alleged purpose. We're going to do XYZ with the voting records. What's the basis for this? The basis for this is, hey, if you want ICE to stop killing people, give us your voting records. You guys think that's what the Civil Rights Act was about? Do we even think that would have been the initial intent of this law? Which a big part of what they're doing now is interpreting laws in bad faith, interpreting the Constitution in bad faith, which is relevant, by the way. When people are invoking laws on the books purposefully to get away with crimes, knowing that like that's not what this law means, I think that's pretty relevant, actually. Mac OS Pro, hell yeah. Fulfilling this common sense request will better guarantee free, fair elections and boost confidence in the rule of law. How, though? Election rules are determined by state and local governments. That's up to them to determine how they want to do that, right? So you can't just state as a matter of fact that it will better guarantee free and fair elections. How would it do so? Do you have probable cause here for fraud that Trump's own DOJ investigated in his first term and said there's literally nothing fucking here? Where all these states like Georgia did fucking hand recounts and still they're not happy? The time has come for state and local officials in your state to change course. As the chief law enforcement officer of the U.S., I am committed to enforcing federal immigration laws and keeping every American safe. Minnesota can and should be a partner with this administration. Do not obstruct federal immigration enforcement. Do not allow rioters to take over the streets and houses of worship. Do not hinder federal officials from investigating financial fraud and violations of election laws. Whether state and local politicians stand in the way or not, we will work every day to protect Americans and make Minnesota safe again. I request that you join us in that effort. Cool. Hold on. Now I see why that man left the live. Now I see why he ran. I doubt he's still here. If he is here, do you see now why everyone can tell you're a bad faith fucking scumbag liar who doesn't want me to read the actual laws you requested? Hey, how do you? And do you support Trump? Okay, what did you want to chat about?
The questions I mainly have for you is, what is your meta-ethical framework? And I was wondering if maybe we could have a chat about that.
I absolutely hate philosophical debates, so I'm just going to say it's probably not something I want to talk about. I hate them. They never go anywhere. It's useless. No one's ever going to change the premise where their morality comes from. In terms of descriptively, I'm an emotivist, or I guess a cognitivist, I think that would be. I don't think there's any such thing as like objective morality. I think morality is a social construct. Doesn't mean it's not important. Doesn't mean we can't find consensus, but I think it's a category error to say that morality could be objective when I think objectivity refers to things that can be empirically tested.
Okay, yeah, I mean, so if it's the case that you're basically saying that everything that is moral or immoral is determined based on how you feel about
it's not mind independent.
Yeah, obviously. If that is the case, then how come you say that all these things are wrong? We can't take it. All we have to do is take it at face value. if you say like these things specifically in context to what you're talking about.
Because I have
right
some
now.
sort of underlying values and thought process that I've internalized through what I've learned, what has been inoculated into me through society I've lived in, and I'm going to use that to make arguments, and my goal in doing that is not to convince anyone of my meta-ethical framework, it's to persuade them, and I happen to think that most people actually share a lot of these values in common.
I'm sure even if it is the case that they share values, it doesn't determine whether or not this thing is wrong. It's only wrong based on your preferences.
Right, and my goal is to just convince everyone else that my preferences about them being wrong are correct. And if I'm appealing to something underlying that they also share in common with me, I'm more likely to succeed in that endeavor than if I'm not.
How can they be, well, language is important. How can they be correct if they're derived from...
I didn't say anything about correct. I don't think correctness or truth value claims can apply to like morality.
You literally just said that, Adam. You said, my goal is to...
persuade people
into believing that my opinions about this or my morality of this is correct.
Mm-hmm. Or basically persuading them to think like me about these things. Maybe it's a better way to phrase it.
Okay, just not that they're correct. Just persuading them to believe.
Yeah, I don't know that correct is a label that applies in this field.
Okay, so I mean, if that's the case, would you say that like convincing people to do the opposite would be wrong?
I think it would be, according to me.
According to you.
Yeah.
So then there isn't anything objectively wrong if I say
that statement doesn't. What does it mean to be objectively? Can morality be mind independent?
I mean, if you were to hold to a framework, again, I'm just asking you about your framework currently and whether or not.
I just think it's a category error to say that morality could be objective.
Not a category. What do you think a category error is?
You're putting it in the wrong category.
No, can you give me like a definition of what category error means?
I don't know how I define it. It's applying an incorrect category to an instance of something that it doesn't actually apply to, I guess.
Is that going to be an epistemic claim?
Not necessarily.
Then how do you know that this is a category error?
The only claim that I'm making is the question of objectivity is going to refer to something that's going to exist that can be repeated, right? That can fall to scientific process or is mind independent in some way. Morality refers to value judgments, correct?
Value judgments?
Yes.
Not necessarily. I think it's indicated off of... No, not necessarily.
Morality is saying that there are some things that are better than other things. You ought to do some things and ought not do other things, right?
No, I would say that morality is what derives or what drives those conclusions. I don't think that they're the
you don't think that values are the underlying substance of where ethics and morality and like all those things come from?
Unless there's an argument in the affirmative of that, I don't think
I'm just asking your claim. I don't know why you'd only be interrogating my ethical position. I'm also curious about yours.
Yeah, I don't think it's relevant to the conversation. Again, my questions were directed towards you, towards an internal...
Wait, so you're not going to answer that? Okay, I don't think what you're saying is relevant then. Now what? And I asked you. Okay, and what you're asking isn't my problem, it's your problem as well. Okay. It seems bad faith that you don't want to clarify your position. It's just weird. Okay, I'll deny yours as well. I entertained it after saying that I don't want to debate it, but I was curious about what questions you had, so I entertained it on like a surface level, yeah. And that's fully at my discretion when I want to stop entertaining that, right? Okay. And usually a good faith philosophical conversation is like, here's what I think, what do you think, why do you think that, this is why I think that. When you don't clarify what you think and why you think it, it starts to seem like you just want to occupy the position of critiquing, which is fine, but then it becomes very one-sided, which I don't know why I'd want to subject myself to that. I think you can make reasonable inferences based on what people say and how they act. There's no universal arbiter of good and bad faith. And my cognitive ability of noticing patterns and how people are behaving, yeah. Yep. My values. I don't think you understand what bad faith means. I'm saying you're dishonestly engaging. You're not trying to be an honest interlocutor. You have an agenda in the conversation, which is not to clarify things. I can infer it, like I said. Like an inference, right? There's no objective arbiter. There's no objective arbiter. I'm just saying I can infer it. I can't prove it objectively. I don't have a mind reading machine. That's how most states of mind things would work, is you can infer it. You can never actually know someone's state of mind, even if they're quote unquote telling it to you. They could be thinking something else. So I'm making inferences. Yeah. Yeah. Right, but I have a reason for saying it's bad faith. And when I tried to bring that reason up with you, you basically just said, like, nah, nah, boo-boo, I don't want to talk about it. Like, you didn't actually give any... Mm-hmm.
Just be the case that you're only deriving or determining that the conversation's bad faith
based on how I think about it. Yeah.
Set of preferences. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is good faith.
Where do you derive things from?
Probably my preferences.
How is that any different than anything I just said then?
Well, I don't make claims about conversations.
You didn't answer the question I just asked you.
You asked how it was different, and I just
you said that your beliefs there come from your preferences, correct?
True.
And mine come from my preferences. So
yes, that's very true. Yes.
So I don't understand what the point of this line of questioning is, I guess.
Yeah. So the line of questioning that I'm currently doing is just to understand. It was originally to understand your meta-ethical framework.
Emotivism. I don't think there's any such thing as moral truth. Yeah.
Yep, and which evolved into a conversation of how we can truly determine something as being wrong. Which you ultimately said that you can't. Nothing's objectively wrong. It's only wrong on the basis of my opinion or my preferences.
I can clarify. I think morality is socially constructed. That doesn't mean it's not important and we can't find consensus.
I was almost done. I was just about to land the plane. So if it is the case that, you're just saying that, well, your goal is to convince everybody that, my way of, asserting my preferences is the correct way, or not the correct way. You changed that. Just the more reasonable way.
I just want to convince people to think the way I think, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Then I don't think that it would be, I think that we would lead to a stalemate in your ideology around determining whether something is wrong or not.
What do you mean stalemate there? Like in what regard?
Stalemate in regards to
if there's like a dispute.
If I just accept the ideology of emotivism or the meta-ethical framework.
It's just like a descriptive claim about what morality and ethics is.
Not a descriptive claim.
Emotivism is saying that there is no actual truth value to these moral claims, that they're socially constructed and expressed on some visceral level by human beings, and we try to extrapolate from that. But
I think no.
I think I also said cognitivism. Maybe it isn't. I think it's cognitivism. Keep going.
I'm not too sure what cognitivism is, but I know what emotivism is. And emotivism is not a descriptive claim; it's an epistemic claim of metaethics.
It's describing what is true, right?
No, because emotivism can't describe things that are true.
It's making it's describing what morality is in terms of it's not saying you're tapping into some kind of objective truth of the universe. It's saying that these moral claims are just emotive reactions from human beings. Bro, don't pull the Jordan Peterson on me. It is. But you agree that words are used colloquially like 99.999% of the time, right? Almost everything I've said today has been colloquial, yeah. Okay. Can you just tell me, what are you getting at? Like, what are you trying to figure out? Like, what's the goal you're digging for right now? I said I don't want to debate it. Entertaining it is different. I'm down to have a good faith conversation about what I believe and why. When it becomes pointed questions that seem to be pursuing something you're not being transparent about, then I become a little bit suspicious. But go ahead. And I've been entertaining it, so yeah. Sure. I'm telling you what the claim emotivism makes is, and it's a descriptive claim about what morality is.
Okay, and then can you give me the descriptive claim one more time?
It's that morality is actually just an expression of how humans feel. It's not something that exists external to the human mind.
Wait, say that one more time?
Morality, what we call morality, is just an expression of how people feel. It's not an actual description of something that exists independent of those people.
So it doesn't exist in reality? It just exists like conceptually?
What do you mean in reality now?
I would say having like some type of ontological status, basically existing.
Do you think that things that are socially constructed can be considered real or no? Because there's dispute on that. That's why I ask.
And no, like conceptualizations of things, I don't think exist. I think they exist as, I don't think they exist ontologically.
They don't exist materially, but do the concepts exist?
Well,
that's what I'm asking is, like, can existence be more than just material?
When I say existence, and here's the thing, right, is when it comes to material existence, I think that we can have things that transcend the human mind, but I think that the only way to accept these things transcending like physical matter would have to point to like some type of creator, which I don't think that I'm pretty sure you're an atheist, correct?
No. I believe in a higher power. I just don't like talking about specifics of my religious beliefs because this is a political platform.
Yeah. Okay. Then I think if we were to point to something that exists like objectively, such as concepts or like conceptual existence, I don't think that we could point to anything that would justify that claim other than
justify
God.
Which claim?
That conceptualization or any concept exists. That would go into mind theory, and mind theory is a touchy subject unless you want to go into mind theory.
What do you mean by mind theory? I'm not sure I'm familiar.
The theory of the mind, just stating that the brain and the mind are separate, and the mind is a separate entity to the brain. These are things that would transcend physical or like.
Is this like people that believe that consciousness is the foundation of reality, or are you talking about something else?
Something else. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm not too well versed in that specific subject.
That's fine.
But I'm pretty sure that is a part of mind theory.
Okay.
Bro, just say yawns in Phil, bro. Come on, lock in. But I mean, do you want to continue entertaining your metaethical framework?
I guess I'm curious, like entertaining to what end? Like, is there like a final? Are you just genuinely curious, or do you have like a final question?
I'm just genuinely curious. I saw you debated Andrew Wilson. I actually watch a lot of Andrew Wilson as well as other debaters.
What did you think of his definition of zero sum?
I didn't think it was relevant. I didn't think it mattered too much.
No, what do you mean?
I think that you're kind of grasping at. If you want my honest opinion, I think you're grasping at straws by using that as like, oh, look at what I got here.
No, so do you even know what I'm asking you right now?
The zero sum, when he defined it as like what
no
was
compromise,
it?
No negotiation, no nothing.
No nothing.
Wait, why do I think that him misdefining it is relevant? Do you know? Is it just like, haha, he's stupid, or why would I think that's relevant?
I don't think zero sum, because in that instance, you guys
why do you think I would find that relevant?
I'm answering it right now.
Sure,
yeah, so in that instance, right, I think using proprietary definitions, especially, you're aware of what a proprietary definition is, correct? Just clarifying question.
You mean like a more idiosyncratic definition?
No, not idiosyncratic. Unless what do you like take idiosyncratic to mean?
Just like something that's like unique and not really in line with the norm?
Not necessarily. When I say proprietary definition, what I mean in this instance is just that it's going to be something derived from, like, we could use emotivism as the example. It's derived from how we feel about the situation.
Okay.
Or basically.
Okay. Okay.
Definitions, and especially in your instance, if maybe you don't know exactly what proprietary definitions are, I think that you think that it's important to know what zero sum is in order to kind of make your definition feel more.
You think that's why I found it relevant?
grounded in your argument. Tell me why you think you.
I found it relevant because Andrew spent 15 minutes before that debating me using the word zero sum in all of his arguments without knowing what it meant and making extremely bold claims with 110% conviction about that's not zero sum, this is zero sum. His entire argument for that entire segment of the debate hinged on he said zero sum a million times. He even asked me, how can it not be zero sum if they're always putting the country first? So for him to make a bunch of affirmative claims with very, very high conviction and absolutely no charitability, and then it turns out one of the words he was using in those claims, he didn't even know what it meant. I think it's actually extremely relevant to call that out. Don't you agree?
Not necessarily.
Really?
In the instance, like
why?
Here,
Why not?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. So, like pointing back to proprietary definitions. If it is the case that you guys have separate definitions, we both agree that definitions are subjective, correct?
I think that they're subjective, but there are still out of bounds things that are just not going to apply, right? So if I told you zero sum meant like water bottle, then you'd be like, okay, this is like beyond the pale of what people would subjectively disagree on the meaning. Right? Sure.
I mean, even though it could be the case that subjective or definitions are subjective, all that's going to lead to is whether somebody's definition is more coherent than the other person's, or
well, definitions are referring to something underlying, right? Like a zero-sum game is a very specific thing in game theory.
Underlying what?
Like, to be specific with this example, zero-sum is referring to a very specific dynamic within game theory.
Okay.
I've never heard, maybe you can find it. That's where it comes from. That's what it is. And it's called zero-sum because by definition, if someone gets +1, that means someone else gets -1. So it always sums to 0. That's why it's called zero-sum.
Sure. I'd be even willing to concede this and saying that he messed up in saying zero sum and that it does matter.
It's not just that he messed up. He argued with me about nationalism versus ultranationalism for like 15 minutes, screaming at the microphone by misusing a word. Isn't that extremely, in the very best case, irresponsible, if not bad faith?
I mean, if you maybe went into it more during that moment, like I think you kind of attacked it late, you would have won the debate. But the fact that you
didn't attack him, I just clarified the definition.
No. That's not what I'm saying. Attack the point that he messed up on zero sum, you would have won the debate. But the fact that you didn't, and then he caught you.
I literally corrected him 2 seconds after. What do you mean? I'll
Yeah,
pull it
but
up. I posted a clip of this on my TikTok.
You gotta push it. You gotta push it harder than that, man. In a debate, do you think that it's especially today, maybe back in like the 50s?
So now you have an issue with the rhetoric. That's fine. There's going to be trade-offs in rhetoric in a debate, right? You're going to choose to emphasize one thing and not another. That's going to come down to your discretion of what you choose to emphasize and not.
Yeah. What I'm criticizing is whether or not who won the debate based on the rhetoric that was used. Obviously,
you judge based on rhetoric or based on who's like engaging in good faith or has more substance to their arguments?
I would say no, not today. Maybe in the 50s and 60s, like I was going to point to, it would have been much like a way bigger.
I'm not asking what society does. I'm asking you, like your metrics.
Well, I think, and that's why I think this way is because I think today debates are determined off rhetoric and who can persuade or get a larger.
What do you mean
audience.
They're determined by that? Like by whom? Who's the subject determining it?
I think that the winner of a debate is determined by the populace. I don't think, even though it might.
You're saying if the winner is being defined as who the public thinks won.
Yeah.
Then okay, well that feels a little circular, but okay.
Why is that circular?
Because you're saying if the winner is defined as who the public thinks won, then the public's metric is what would determine who won. Well, yeah.
No, I'm not, and that's not what I'm necessarily saying. Like, not on a sense of like this is what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, sorry, my phone keeps dropping. I'm gonna set this somewhere else. Not in the sense of like objectively winning the debate. I think that people's perception of a debate being won is determined on whether the majority of whoever is watching the debate determines whether he won or not.
I think the winner of a debate is usually going to be decided by people already having preconceived notions of which side they're on, like 99% of the time.
Yeah.
So in terms of my debate with Andrew, everyone who's left of center is going to think I crushed him. Everyone who's right of center is going to think he crushed me. So it's like, I don't know how useful that is.
I think that the only reason I think you should have attacked him more on that point of the zero sum. Like, obviously you did call it out, which was good. But if you called him out more and more and used it as like a rhetorical,
I did called him out multiple times, and this is where it's like, I don't know what debate you watched.
I watched the debate, the whole debate.
I said zero sum like many, many times.
I understand that.
It says here when I do Control F on the transcript, 24 times it was said. I don't know what more you want. Can you acknowledge that? Okay. What do you mean by objective meaning?
Basically saying that the definition is going to be true.
Like, here's the thing. There can be an objective meaning, but you can convey that objective meaning in very different ways rhetorically while still getting at the same underlying concept, right? So what zero-sum game means, I think there's an objective definition for that, but you could describe that in a variety of different ways that are still all alluding to that same underlying meaning. Do you agree?
There's an objective. When we're talking about objective...
Do you agree with that or no?
No. When we're talking about objective... No. Nope.
Okay, let's stick on this example then, right? So if we look up the exact definition of zero-sum game...
Yep. That's not going to be objective.
That's not what I think you're misunderstanding my point. So, okay, the AI overview says, zero-sum game is a scenario in game theory where one participant's gain is exactly balanced by the losses of other participants. Are there not other ways I could word that would be conveying the exact same thing?
No. I agree with that. I agree that there's other ways to word them.
But then the underlying thing they're referring to stays the same, even if they're worded differently, right?
I don't think that's sure. Yeah, that's how the definition is generally used, but I don't think it's used through an objective standard. And when I'm saying objective, I think we agree when we say objective is just mind independent. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously there's going to be a mind to determine whether or not even to determine whether or not the definition is objective.
So this goes back to, like, you don't think numbers are real, you don't think concepts are real, right?
No. Not without. If I'm taking a completely secular view of the position, then no, they can't.
This is why I think something can be both real and subjective. Do you disagree?
You think something can be real and subjective, such as like social constructs?
Yeah, or concepts.
Or concepts? Okay.
Like, I don't 1 + 1 = 2. I don't know that exists external of a human mind, but that underlying system of organizing, like this is one unit, this is another unit, combined they're two units, like that is still gonna, for all intents and purposes, be real, even if you can't see under like a microscope, right?
You think like physical existence?
Can you just not answer all my questions with questions of your own?
Hey, listen, I've been completely charitable and have answered a bunch of your questions.
So have I.
Yeah. So we're just going back and forth here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just I don't want to lose track of this. All came up because you were like, oh, Andrew Wilson, you were grasping at straws, but you just conceded that on that point I was fully correct.
To be fair, I'm not saying go Andrew Wilson, but I am saying I don't think you won that debate.
I disagree. I think Andrew was scrambling from the first part of it, and I think anyone that doesn't think that is probably very biased in his favor.
Do you think that you can concede? Do you think it's possible to concede every one of your points and still not have lost, or still not have
lost a debate?
Yeah.
Yes, but that's not what he did.
Okay, so what did he do?
So first, when James, the moderator, asked him, Andrew, by Adam's definition, is Trump a fascist? Andrew still said no. But then later on he said, of course he's a fascist by your definition. And he kept flip-flopping between whether or not Trump was a fascist by my definition. The reason he did that is because in my opening statement, I called out all of the substantive arguments he would use to do internal critique, and he didn't want to touch him afterwards.
I'm willing to concede this. On the empirical level of debate structure, you definitely won the debate. But on a populist level, you definitely lost it.
Populist right, I lost it. I don't think anyone center or left of center would think I lost that. I'm sure some people would, but by and large, no. By and large, generally, probably not. That's the thing is, obviously Andrew's been doing this for a long time, so he's built a great thing. I think he was extremely bad faith. But.
Let's just take somebody that has no clue about politics, knew nothing about this. You think you still won that in their eyes?
Yes. Someone who just doesn't know much about politics?
No, nothing about politics. They have no
Yeah, I think if 10 people who know nothing about politics watched that debate, then either 6 or 7 would say I won.
That's all. Obviously we can't prove that.
Yeah,
but
I think that's. Can you wait? Hold on. Do you disagree that Andrew came off as extremely bad faith in this debate and flip-flopping on his own position? Hold on. Can you not acknowledge how unhinged it is? Hold on. Can you not acknowledge, first of all, how unhinged it is? In his opening statement, he says, you're referring to Robert Paxton and Jason Stanley? Neither of them think Trump's a fascist. And then I say, they both think he's a fascist. Well, one of them's a political hack anyways, but the other one, he's very credible. Quote, there are no ifs, ands, or buts. Robert Paxton is very credible. 20 minutes later, Robert Paxton is a left-wing hack. After first saying he wouldn't think Trump's a fascist, then when I say he is a fascist, then he says he's a hack anyways. And then on top of that, first he says that even by my own definition, Trump isn't a fascist. Then later on he says, that's just a tautology, right?
Yeah,
those are contradictory statements. He simultaneously said that Trump is and is not a fascist by my definition. The only reason he did that is because he didn't want to concede. And the entire backstory of this debate is I wanted to debate him, is Trump an authoritarian? He rejected that prompt 3 times, insisting is Trump a fascist, despite the fact that from February 2024 up until now, I've called Trump a fascist less than 10 times. So already he picked the debate topic because he wanted to do semantics. Even then, I tried coordinating beforehand with him. Hey, if we're going to debate this, probably good to agree on a definition. The moderator tells me before the debate, Andrew says that he agrees that this is your definition. But then he spends the entire debate saying, this can't be your definition. This is a bad definition. Well, he agreed beforehand that it was fine. It's extremely bad faith. It's extremely bad faith. I'm not gonna expose my DMs with the moderator. You think I'm lying? You think I'm misrepresenting anything in that chain of events? Yeah. I've read them. I've read them verbatim on my live. I don't even think Andrew would deny the claims I'm making here. I'd be surprised if he did. Yeah, because James would just be like, you're lying. Well, also during the debate, I brought up multiple instances during the debate where he's being bad faith, right? Where he both simultaneously says that Trump is and is not a fascist by my own definition. You can understand how insane... Hold on. But if he makes that contradiction how would he not realize that type of contradiction? He's been debating for years longer than I have. He's been debating for years longer than I've even been doing this. How would he not realize a contradiction in his central claim, which is simultaneously Trump is a fascist by your definition and he's not a fascist by your definition? Because hold on. No, I can tell you what my inference is on what happened here, which is that in my opening statement, I brought up all the arguments that I knew he would use in internal critique, so then he ran away from internal critique the whole time, which would be accepting your definition, Adam. Let's see if Trump's actions actually meet your standards here. He never wanted to talk about Trump's actions. Why? Because in my opening statement, I said, maybe Andrew will just invoke Article 2 or invoke unitary executive theory, because I watched a bunch of his debates, and every time he debates someone on is Trump an authoritarian, that's always what he runs to. The second I said that, now he no longer wants to engage in the internal critique, because he doesn't know the underlying laws at all or the Constitution. I think substantively as well. What is a populist debate? We agreed that anyone left of center thinks I won. Anyone right of center thinks he won. We agree so far. So the question then is like a truly unbiased person who is not very political, how would they feel, right? And if they see him misrepresenting my claims, lying constantly, switching up his own position, whereas I was consistent from my opening statement and my closing statement, even if they don't agree with my claim, they'll say one of these guys is trying to debate, the other one's trying to win. I disagree. Maybe the general person, but the general person that watches a modern day debate video that is apolitical, they're probably trying to pay more attention than the average person by even watching a fucking 3-hour debate. That already selects for a certain type of person, especially if they're finishing the whole video. Maybe year and a half.
I've been debating longer than you have, then I guess. But when I first started looking into debate, modern day debate was one of the first people I started watching, and even then, like I was pretty apolitical. Like I didn't have a political belief. I didn't really hold to any ideology, and I was just that was me. I was looking at like who got the better rhetorical jabs throughout the debate. Because if they were able to get the better rhetorical jabs throughout the debate,
I think I also got the better rhetorical jabs, but that's subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, that's subjective. Yeah.
Like when he said there's consensus on ultranationalism, and I said, who's the consensus between you and yourself? I think that's better rhetoric than anything he did.
I mean, when he called you out on the fallacy, that was
which one?
That was pretty,
the lighter thing.
The appeal to authority. Yeah.
Well, no, that was a bad look for him because he accepted that authority in the beginning of the debate, and then he switched up on
that is true, and not many people are going to grasp that though. But
hold on, the people that won't grasp that are people that like Andrew Wilson.
You said, I'm sorry.
The people that won't grasp that are people that already like Andrew Wilson.
He
literally exclaims while chuckling and laughing into his microphone, Robert Paxton and Jason Stanley, the scholars you reference, no mention of whether or not they're a hack, they don't even think Trump's a fascist. Objectively a lie, they both do. I correct him, Andrew, they both think Trump's a fascist. Well, Stanley's a hack anyways. Okay, you didn't say that a second ago. You said he was a fascist scholar. But Paxton, I'll admit, is legit. 10 minutes later, I try giving a quote from Paxton. I start reading the quote. He gets nervous. No. What you don't understand is Paxton is just trying to help the left-wingers. What I'm saying, though, is the average person who's not political sees that. They're not fucking stupid. That's such an obvious flip-flop just for the purpose of winning, quote-unquote. I think you're acting like Andrew is more slick than he is, and that anyone who wasn't already an Andrew Glazer saw him struggling up against the ropes multiple times in that debate. But I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying the average person who thinks Andrew did really well here probably already likes Andrew. Mm-hmm.
Push those apolitical people like, oh, look at Andrew destroy this.
He wasn't even really debating. He was just trying to win on specific points that I wasn't even making, right? So he just kept basically strawmanning me the whole time. People can tell, even if they can't tell, like, okay, who is Robert Paxton? They can tell when someone is continuously lying and cutting the other person off and strawmanning them for an entire debate. And he was visibly angry as the debate went on.
To be clear, I'm not saying this is Andrew Wilson's best debate. I'm not saying like this is the best debate he's ever had. He destroyed you 100%.
It was a bad look for him. And I think he knows that. I think that's why his wife was in the comments defending him 5 minutes after the debate ended.
Well, to be fair, his wife defends him in like...
No, it's cute and all. I love it. A couple goals, whatever, right? But when the overwhelming majority of the comments are saying, oh, Andrew won, Lib destroyed, and there's like 3 or 4 comments saying I won, and Andrew Wilson's wife is responding to every single one, I don't know that's how I would act if I thought I was successful. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe that's how you'd act.
I think it's just a difference in opinion, to be completely honest. Yeah. I think, that's all it is. But I appreciate the conversation, Adam.
Yep.
I'm going to head out and make some chicken. So
enjoy your chicken.
I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for the
Okay. Is this going to become a recurring debate topic on my live? Did I or did I not beat Andrew Wilson? Should I add that to the prompts? Bruh. Man, I know YouTube keeps getting audio cutting in and out. What I might do is, because the TikTok VOD is going to have the audio, is extract the audio from the TikTok live when I'm done with the live, and then overlay it onto the YouTube video side so you have better audio. This shit is annoying where I just have to keep refreshing the audio capture. Beating Andrew Wilson isn't a flex. A pickle jar beat him. I don't think beating him is a flex. I think the way you beat him can be a flex. I think I did things to Andrew Wilson that have not been done to him before. Like this guy's whole thing, if anyone watches him, internal critique. He ran for his life away from my internal critique. He just refused to internally critique my position. because that's what I prepped for. I'm like, okay, internal critique would be if he accepts, okay, let's just say that I accept your definition of fascism. Does Trump's behavior actually meet that definition? He did not want to discuss Trump's behavior. He did not want to discuss it. He was terrified of discussing it because all his basic ass talking points, well, Trump, he has this thing where he goes, well, Trump isn't actually trying to commit a crime. He goes to his lawyers and his lawyers tell him, sir, you're allowed to do this. It's a novel legal theory. And when he talks about federalizing the National Guard, well, Article 2 says commander-in-chief, so he's being a chief and commanding them, so checkmate, liberal. These very one-dimensional arguments on how the Constitution works and how statutory authority works. And I showed my hand I played my hand too early. I called out in my opening statement, Andrew's going to say X, Y, and Z. And then he just did not want to touch those topics at all. And he just kept conceding for the sake of argument. I'm like, do you concede actually? I don't have to tell you whether or not I concede actually. I've never seen him do that where he refuses to make his own position clear. I agree. He should be embarrassed at every chance. And you can tell, dude. Someone said defiled that man. You can tell. You can tell when you debate someone. You can read their energy when past the halfway point, like there's one point where he asked me like a really bad faith question, and I asked a clarifying question, and he's like, "Don't ask me a question," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll ask the audience then," because what he wants to do there is stop you from asking a clarifying question by saying, "I don't have to answer your questions." Okay, bro, I'm asking the audience then. You're not gonna cut me off from my own point. I will say, I expected him to be bad faith. I was shocked by how bad faith he was. I've never seen him be as bad faith as he was with me. Maybe that's on me for not watching enough of his content. I've never once in my life seen Andrew Wilson refuse to give his opinion on whether or not Trump is an authoritarian. I've never seen him run from the substance of Trump's actions. He loves doing the novel legal theory of defense and the Article 2 defense. Let's see who we got in the guest requests. What just happened? Why'd they leave? You were over the target, that's why? What do you mean? Hey, how old are you? And do you support Trump? Okay. Do me a favor. I want to switch back to my debate prompts. Can you just hop back in the guest queue real quick? I'll add you back. Okay. There we go. Let's... Hold on. Properties. Restart. Let's just keep that up. Okay, you can hop back in. You can hop back in the guest box. Forgetting your name. Yeah, novel legal theory is like you go and unalive someone and you're like, I have a novel legal theory that I was allowed to do this. Your Honor, you don't understand. I had a legal memo about this. Hey, okay, we just talked. So you see these prompts on the screen?
Okay. Yes.
Take your pick of which you'd like to debate. Or we can do all in order if you disagree on everything.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree that Trump is corrupt.
Based, okay.
Democrats are... I do disagree with the second one.
Sure, let's talk about economic policy then. Would you make the argument that Trump is good on economic policy, or you think he's just less shitty than Democrats?
I think he is better than Democrats.
How so?
Trade deficit is down for the first time in about 17 years.
Can we just go point by point there? So the first point you brought up is trade. Let me I want to write down your points. Where's my Sharpie?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll remember it. Why is a trade deficit a bad thing?
Well, because the more we spend on trade is worse.
Right, but like I have a trade deficit with Walmart. I've never sold anything to Walmart, right?
Sure, but if you spend less and get the same amount from Walmart, then that's where the deficit comes in. Mm-hmm. Okay, so next.
But why does that make the trade deficit for the United States like bad? Like you're saying, okay, prices should be lower. I agree that actually happens when you don't have tariffs and when you do more free trade. But like when we have a trade deficit with a country, that means the country is giving us stuff that we value more than the money we're spending on it, right?
Yes, that's why the trade deficit being down, meaning we're getting more for less.
No, the trade deficit being down just means that we're importing less stuff.
No, that means we're getting more for less.
How so?
That's literally what it means with the CFBP and the labor.
The trade deficit just refers to like how much money is like leaving our country and we're buying stuff that's being imported, right?
Yes, and we're getting more.
That can go down for a lot of reasons, right?
And inflation.
And would one of those reasons perhaps be that there are just less imports coming into the country? Well, or that people are buying less imported goods?
No. Oh, no. Actually, there's... No.
So if there were less imports coming in, the trade deficit wouldn't change?
Yes, it would change, but that's not why it is changing.
Okay, why is it changing?
Because we have implemented tariffs. Now, our GDP has gone down.
Wait, which tariffs are you referring to? Because there's a lot out there. Or do you think they're all good?
I think... That's a tough question. I think most are good.
The reason I ask that is because Trump did this thing where he went to Japan, he went to the EU, and he was like, oh, look at these beautiful trade deals I've negotiated with them. I threatened them with a tariff, and they agreed to this and that agreement. And none of those agreements were actually codified into law in either country.
Oh,
none of them were binding.
They were pledged. Yeah. These are all pledged and contracted. $17 trillion.
You're saying they're all pledged and contracted?
Yeah, well... The ones that I'm talking about, I'm not sure.
The ones I'm bringing up, like the EU and Japan. I think Abu Dhabi was one as well. Like the biggest ones that he's been championing.
Japan, Taiwan, and like those are all codified and yeah.
I can just pull it up. The Japan thing isn't even hold on. So we have here first he said the EU gave him a $600 billion down payment and he could do anything with the money. That was just not real. That money was never given to us. The money we got from Japan is loans and other agreements that the U.S. does not profit from. Qatar made a deal with us. Qatar made a deal with us, which is hold on. Can I just finish? Qatar made a deal with us that is 6 times their own GDP. How is that even possible?
Minerals.
What?
Minerals and resources.
For Qatar?
Simple. Yes.
That they can promise us 6 times their entire GDP?
Are you aware of what resources are? Do they have
enough resources to increase their GDP by 600%?
Do you know
that would be historic.
You should really look up what Qatar is.
And wait, you think that they're going to start mining all their minerals just to increase their GDP by 6x just to give the money to the U.S.?
Did I say that?
I'm asking. There's a question mark at the end of that sentence. Okay, so then what is your argument there on that deal? How much time is that going to take? Like decades? And this is not codified into Qatari law, so then why would they not just not do that? Like Trump took the win, right? So someone just glazes Trump, gives him a shiny gold bar and says, sir, we'll make the most beautiful trade deal ever with you. And then he goes, yes, big success. I'm a big, strong art of the deal man. And then just nothing happens. Trump literally was tweeting about this the other day. He's like, these countries that made a deal with me, they are not honoring our deal. And it's like, what deal, bro? They basically just gave you an IOU verbally.
Hold on. Wait. Which countries aren't?
I don't remember which countries. It was a Truth Social post he did recently, like a few days ago.
Yeah. Well. Okay. So which countries aren't honoring our deal?
You want me to find the Trump Truth Social post?
No, I want you to say which countries aren't honoring our deal.
Qatar, They haven't given us 6x their GDP. The EU,
Was that supposed to be overnight?
The EU never gave us $600 billion, which he claimed.
Was that supposed to be
Trump has said that he's brought in, I believe, $20 trillion. 17 trillion.
Yes.
Where's that money?
And it was from...
You understand that would pay off like half our national debt. Where's that money?
It's going to be over the next 10 years.
According to what?
According to Trump and his administration, Mark Bessent.
Okay, that's not exactly according to Trump's administration. Yeah, according to Trump's administration, the guy who killed Alex Preddy was an assassin, according to them. So not the most trustworthy narrators, right? Are these countries actually signing into law that they're going to do this?
Yes, these are pledged and contracted.
Where's the contract?
Agreements.
Okay, let's just look up Qatar.
Wait, hold on. Here, I will actually get you all of them. There's Siemens. There's many more. Hold on. Hyundai.
Yeah, so apparently there was an agreement for $1.2 trillion, and Qatar's annual GDP is $222 billion. So the projected economic exchange is 5.4 times.
Hold on. How much was pledged just in Qatar?
1.2 trillion.
1.2 trillion.
And that's not
crazy.
That's not real. You think that where's that going to come? Where is that going to come from? You think they can just conjure up trillions, hundreds of billions of dollars?
Are you aware of what assets are?
Yeah, which assets go fucking 6x, 600% return? Where?
Let's see. Intelligence.
What? What do you mean intelligence?
Military. Yes, military intelligence, real estate, property.
Real estate?
Yes, real estate and property.
In what time span is this stuff going 6x?
You would have to ask them, or they wouldn't have agreed to it.
Not many details there. President Donald J. Trump signed an agreement with Qatar to generate an economic exchange worth $1.2 trillion.
You let me say two things. I'm not done yet.
Oh, please finish.
Yeah, so there's also monetary value, gold, resources, minerals. There is tourist attractions that conduct. Yeah. Go ahead.
But
look up
what was the
how
point
much
of the tourism thing you just said?
That they are going to.
This is a strategic framework. It's not like, an actual trade deal would be like thousands of pages. You think this is a trade deal?
Not only is it a trade deal,
it's not a trade deal.
Mineral? Are you kidding?
Like NAFTA, like these types of things, which are thousands of pages long. Trade deals involve like sector by sector technocratic negotiation on specific rates and quotas. I'm pretty sure China and Canada just did an actual trade deal. This is just a fucking. They shook hands and said thoughts and prayers will give you $1 trillion.
It's not.
Huh?
So because Egypt, Qatar, and Saudi, the
EU,
UAE.
Oh, okay.
All said that this is a trade deal.
Yeah, they're saying that to make Trump happy.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
You haven't seen what happens? Trump goes to these countries that he's been threatening tariffs on. They give him a shiny gold medal or like a shiny trinket of some kind. And they say, oh, sir, we will give you $1 gazillion bajillion dollars. We promise. Okay, we promise you we will. And then Trump's like, yes, big success. They respect me. They gave me a shiny trinket and they're promising they're going to do this for me. Then he gets on Truth Social and declares victory with no binding. Huh?
A contract is binding.
Okay. Where's the contract for $1.2 trillion between the U.S. and Qatar? Because he didn't even claim that there was one, but maybe you've seen it somewhere.
Nobody said just Qatar. There's also Taiwan.
Okay.
There's Japan. There's...
Well, the Japanese, those were just loans that were given to us. We don't profit from that. Right? Right? Uh-huh. What, you guaranteed to profit from a loan? The person taking the loan? Yeah, we are. Okay, which loan are you referring to? We can look into this. This is an interesting point. Because I'm seeing here Japan pledged $550 billion, largely structured as loans and guarantees via institutions like the JBIC to support U.S. infrastructure in sectors like AI, semiconductors, and energy. This sounds like they're giving us money that we're going to invest in semiconductors and AI and stuff, right? Yeah, loans and loan guarantees from the Japan Bank for International Cooperation. What? So you agree with me that you were just incorrect and that it's us taking a loan from them, right? So the only person making a guaranteed profit would be Japan, because we probably paid them interest, right? But we have the money that we're allegedly going to invest in the infrastructure like AI, semiconductors, and energy, right? When were these warehouses built? Hold on, you said we have the warehouses. This deal happened in late 2025. How quickly were these warehouses built? According to what? Did we pass legislation to build these warehouses? Which legislation? Well, hold on. You understand that the president can't just unilaterally start building factories, right? He'd have to invoke some kind of law. Trump can't just order the building of a factory like a fucking king. What do you mean?
Building of a factory. I'm saying that the Japanese store or whatever CE or whatever company.
If a private company chooses to make a factory, that's different than the U.S. government investing that money. That's different than the U.S. government. That's different than the U.S. government investing that money into like semiconductors and AI, right? That'd be a subsidy.
Yes, subsidizing is not
and
good.
And they would need statutory authority to subsidize or incentivize any kind of construction here, right? So this
not talking about subsidizing. They're bringing their
who was the loan given to?
Here. The loan was given to Japan.
What?
To bring in companies like Siemens. Here, I'll actually bring you up all the companies that have pledged and have a contract.
These are loans to American companies, not to the American government to incentivize anything.
Yes.
And again, American companies are not the ones giving the loans. They're taking the loans to invest in AI and data centers and semiconductor factories. I think they're called fabs.
You mean like the people creating factories here in America that were...
Oh, because of the CHIPS Act, you mean?
That's funny.
I mean, that's doing legislation I can think of which incentivized factories being built, right?
I will say that was one good thing that Biden did.
So you disagree with Trump when he calls it a disaster and a failure, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm guessing you'd be upset when Trump took money from the CHIPS Act to just buy 10% of Intel without consulting Congress or anyone else?
No.
No what?
No, I would not. I think that was good to get that intel because he brought in...
Well, you understand that was like extremely unconstitutional, right? Like that's probably one of the craziest things a U.S. president has ever done in American history.
No.
No?
Having somebody who's... Wait, hold, what was...
I'm happy I looked it up here. So he used grants from the CHIPS Act to take a 10% stake in Intel, despite the CHIPS Act saying, and I quote, "The purchase of stocks and dividends are not an eligible use of CHIPS funds." So you have the president unilaterally taking funds appropriated by Congress and using them for something different, and not just anything different, but using them to have a private backdoor negotiation with the CEO of a company and then buying stock in that company. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No. It just wasn't before he was. This is August of 2025. Yeah. Hold on. Let's make this more fun.
Yeah, okay. Can you repeat that again? Hold on. What did he
Trump
do wrong?
secured a 10% equity stake in Intel using funds from the CHIPS Act, despite the fact that the CHIPS Act explicitly says, and I'm quoting from the direct legislation itself, the purchase of stocks and dividends are not an eligible use of CHIPS funds. So that's like he's violating the letter of the law in the CHIPS Act, using money that are meant to be grants and subsidies to instead buy stock in Intel without consulting Congress in a private negotiation between the executive branch and a private company to misallocate. This is what conservatives told us Obama was going to do, Biden was going to do.
So there is no evidence that Trump ever bought stock. You can look that up right now. There is no evidence whatsoever.
Have you checked the statement from Intel themselves?
Yes, that's what I just
Intel and Trump administration reached historic agreement to accelerate American technology and manufacturing leadership.
I understand what you're saying.
$8.9 billion investment in Intel common stock.
You may want to look up if Trump committed any criminal act while doing anything with the CHIPS Act.
I'm just going to ask you again, like you read this, right? It says $8.9 billion investment in Intel common stock, right?
So is it illegal to invest?
Can you just agree
in
that that's
something?
what it says, right? They used $8.9 billion to invest in Intel common stock, right? We at least agree on that?
I can't see it. Can you put it?
I can't switch to screen share unless you were to leave and hop back on.
All right. I'll leave for a second and I'll hop right back up.
Okay. Let's do this, and let's switch the scene on YouTube as well. Okay, you can hop back in. So you can
Where
see
does
this.
that say Trump?
This was Trump negotiated this. What do you mean?
Yeah. It says U.S. government to make $8.9 billion.
And who's the chief executive of the U.S. government?
So the government
Can you answer that?
is making the money?
Which branch of government?
Wait. The
I'll
U.S.
do you a
government.
favor. I'll do you a favor and I'll highlight it.
Okay. The U.S. government is
Right.
gaining intel.
And now, do you see?
Happens
Do you see what this
constantly.
says? I'll actually
Every
just go.
single administration gains information and intel from multiple sources. Every single one.
Can you see what I've highlighted here?
Mm-hmm.
Can you read this?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Purchase of stocks and dividends are not an eligible use of CHIPS Act. Now, can you name where Trump did that?
Right there. He also talked about it.
The
I can pull up the
government
press
is
conference
not
if you
Trump.
want.
Trump administration is not Trump.
Whose administration
Sorry.
is it?
Trump's.
Okay.
The United States
so
of
who'd be
America.
in charge of the administration?
The United States of America and Trump.
Mm-hmm.
What's your point?
Well, what is your point?
My point is that he did not gain any money from that. The administration and the government.
I'm not saying that
The
Trump
government
owns the
is the
Intel stock as a.
people, right?
I'm not saying that Trump privately owns the Intel stock. I don't know if you were listening to what I said. He misallocated funds appropriated by Congress. We have checks and balances, right? Congress decides the spending. Okay, I just showed you it, but I can show you it again. What? No, so misallocating of funds would mean the funds are spent on things they're not meant to be spent on, right? And I think you just read this, right? Stocks and dividends are not an eligible use of CHIPS Act funds. And then the funds were used for what? What were they used for? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. How? How? Like, no. How is it? How is the company getting that money? Through what kind of transaction? They're buying stock in Intel. They're investing in a private company. They're investing in a private. What's the agreement that they announced? And the CHIPS Act said what? Oh, does the bottom paragraph say never mind they didn't buy common stock? Yeah. I don't know why you want to prove my point. From the CHIPS and Science Act, right? That's where the grants are coming from. And the CHIPS and Science Act says what about the funds from the CHIPS Act? I don't know why you are choosing to die on this hill, but okay. The one that talks about how it's funding from the CHIPS Act grants? The same CHIPS Act which doesn't allow grants to be spent on, like, stock? Yeah, grants are allowed. Just, do you have a point to make, or? Does the CHIPS Act allow the purchase of stocks and dividends with funds from the CHIPS Act?
What person in the administration has purchased stocks in that company?
The U.S. government has purchased stock in that company with the CHIPS Act funds, right?
The government subsidizes all kinds of things.
Okay.
That concerns individuals.
Okay. This is true. The government subsidizes things at times. Yeah.
So, what are you talking about? What individual?
Pretty clear on what I'm talking about. I'm a bit confused about what you're talking about.
The government can put stock into. That's why stocks are in things like.
Can you repeat this sentence?
Tesla. Yeah, the government can have stock.
If what?
What are you talking about, if what?
Under what circumstances can the government buy stock?
There's many.
What, Congress would have to pass a law saying we're buying stock, right? A judge couldn't do that. The executive branch couldn't do that either, right?
No. That's why, there's...
Wait, no, as in you agree with me or disagree with me?
I disagree with you, because that's why Tesla is...
Wait, what are the three branches of government? Which branch decides what laws are passed and how much money we spend? So that would be the only branch that could, call for investment in a private company, right? Okay.
Are you saying that Congress had to approve Tim Walz to
I don't know where Tim Walz just came from.
Wait, stop. Are you saying that Congress had to approve Tim Walz?
Or are you changing the subject?
Putting Tesla on their retirement? Did he have to get congressional
You're now talking about state law for civil service workers in the state of Minnesota? What does that
No,
do with
I'm
anything?
talking about Okay. This is what you did with Andrew Wilson. You're just being either dumb or obtuse.
When Wilson sends his people, he's not sending his best. They're confused, they're dumb, and some I assume are good people. Do you know what zero sum means?
Yes.
What does it mean?
When one wins, another loses.
You're officially smarter than Andrew Wilson. Congrats.
No, he was making an internal critique, and
he
the
was
fact
lying
that
about the definition of zero sum for the sake of arguing.
No, the fact that him making an internal critique going way over your head was just
Is internal critique when I
but-
misdefine a word and then use my improper definition to argue with someone? Is that what internal critique is?
No, he was actually making a concession for that, and you still lost
Concession on what?
on multiple different
Well, you're saying something
occasions.
specific. What was he conceding there since you have such a good play-by-play memory of the debate?
Sure. So he made a concession on you and hold on. There was
And wow, how did we end up all the way here from you just ignoring this, I guess, the CHIPS Act stuff?
well, I already gave you all the information for that.
What I was given no information. I would love some information from
Really?
you.
I thought I did.
You need to join Andrew Wilson's debate university or whatever.
I'd love to.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm just too broke.
Fair.
Yeah, so the semiconductors, that's I already gave you that information.
What information? You said something about Tim Walz and you said Andrew Wilson wrong on both counts.
You want to go back to the Tim Walz thing? Okay. And Andrew Wilson, what do you want to talk about?
You brought him up. I already debated him. I don't know which. I was just making a joke when I asked you if you knew what zero sum meant, because it's a very certain type of person that thinks Andrew won that debate, and they always seem to act the same way, which is fine.
Oh, he definitely.
It's a free country. You can think whatever you'd like to think.
All right. Fuck. Yeah. I don't even remember what we were talking about, so
Tends to happen when you pivot twice.
you can bring somebody else up if you want.
Okay. You're done. Okay. Also, there's nothing more validating on the face of the earth than the most stupid people to ever live saying that Andrew Wilson won. I have yet to speak to someone who is like a good faith, intelligent interlocutor that thinks Andrew won, which says a lot. Oh man. Who is that? Is that like the second or third guy now to say that I lost to Andrew Wilson? Maybe that debate will be the gift that keeps giving, is that his lowest IQ supporters are going to end up on my lives doing debates with me. I'll take it. Nice to have a little influx. On a populist level, yeah. I'll concede. I don't think I won on a populist level, guys. I don't know what that means, so I don't know if I can win it. Wilson did not win. And here's the thing. I think everyone who's not like a dishonest political hack watches that debate and they can see what Andrew's doing within the first 5 minutes. He's had better performances. I was a little bit let down by how straightforward it was. Like, not straightforward. I guess one-dimensional is a better way of putting it. There was no layers to his argument. It was just define this word in one word or less. I can't react to the Isaiah Martin Jubilee because YouTube hits me with a fucking copyright strike if I react to it on live. You can find the debate on Modern Day Debate on YouTube. You won on its face because by your definition you conceded every point. Here's the funny part of that, though. He didn't, though. Like, half the time he was like, of course by your definition Trump's a fascist because your definition is a tautology. But then he also says to the moderator, he's not a fascist by Adam's definition. That to me is like, what are we debating about it with who won? He made two polar opposite claims based on what allowed him to squeeze out of the given situation he was in. I still don't know whether he thinks Trump's a fascist by my definition or not. He cooked. I'll definitely have to check it out. I haven't watched it yet. I'll definitely watch it. The thing is, I can watch it if I'm not live on YouTube. But I kind of like the YouTube VODs because they're prettier. They have the colors and everything. Do you want more U.S. immigration? I guess. I don't know. Like, I have to read more about, like, logistically, like, what is the number of people we can accept in. But my gut feeling is we probably should be accepting more people in. Overhauling the process for sure to make it easier. I think we should have seasonal work permits as well. If people want to come work here seasonally, they should be allowed to do that and then go back home if they want. Or stay. Donald saved Venezuela from a dictator, and now the Venezuelans are celebrating. He saved us during the pandemic. Where did he save you from? Unemployment rate drops when he came back to the office. The GDP went up when Donald came in. How? What did he do to raise the GDP? What did he actually do to cause that? I have uncles and stuff that are being processed since 2006. That's not surprising. It's fucking unreal. It's unreal, the process. If you like pretty colors, try ketamine. I have once in a medical situation when I was getting surgery done. Super blue here, but I feel like this is a weak argument. Sorry, I'm just seeing your message now. What's the weak argument? Google the definition of authoritarian. Educate yourself. Isn't it just like favoring strict obedience to like a central power? Favoring or enforcing strict obedience to authority, especially that of the government at the expense of personal freedom. Yeah, so like Trump? Like what Trump does? Like that? Yeah. Cool. I don't know what the point of that argument was, but thanks. It's almost like it's in the name itself, yeah. We have no more guest requests. Maybe we'll call it a night soon. Well, we all know what are Yahtzees, so they are authoritarians and fascists. They just don't like being called that. True. Andrew Wilson's argument boiled down to, when you call us a fascist, do you acknowledge that people will be violent towards us? This is a really interesting conversation, actually. Maybe I'll pull this up. And I was like, do you want me to abstain from calling a fascist just because some crazy person out there might do something violent because I called him a fascist? Why am I responsible for other people's behavior with my rhetoric? Especially when my rhetoric is not unalive someone. I'm just applying a label to someone. And I think I brought up to him, if that's dangerous, then what about when Trump does it? Let's see. Okay, let's switch to screen share. Let's do that and restart that. Okay.
So do you think that Trump is like significantly increasing the threat of violence against people like Mark Kelly
towards an out group
to like compensate for the actions of other people I have no control over?
I'm just pointing out to you that if it's the case that you don't want there to be a stigmatization towards...
Oh my God, bro. Why is my screen frozen again? There we go. Is it all working? Well, that's not working. This is so insanely fucking annoying. This actually makes me want to go live less. The fact that I have to refresh my screen share and audio share so often.
An out group, right? Because you think it's going to necessitate violence. I'm making the same argument backwards to you. I think the reason you should be more precise with what a fascist is, if you want to call them authoritarians and stuff like that, fine, have that argument. But that doesn't have the same loaded language, which then adopts the Holocaust, right? It doesn't adopt the Holocaust. That's what calling people fascist does.
He's making the argument that, like, if you call someone a fascist, you're basically accusing them of the Holocaust and justifying acts of violence against them. I don't think that calling someone a fascist means you have to unalive them. I don't think it's like the logical conclusion of that, especially if we live in a system where there's other options. That's like a last resort, right? Violence should always be a last resort. But I loved catching him on this. I don't think he expected it.
Consistency here. So do you think that Trump is like significantly increasing the threat of violence against people like Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin when he calls for their hanging, or when he calls Jack Smith a deranged animal, or when he says that Rob Reiner was killed because he had TDS?
Do you realize? Okay, here, I'll just answer this. Let's say yes.
I know he doesn't want... He'd never say that to his own audience. He hates having to concede some shit like that. Yes.
Okay, cool.
So then in turn, that would mean that your rhetoric is increasing the likelihood of violence back the other way, right?
My rhetoric is way less inflammatory than anything I just gave.
But it would be increasing the threat of violence the other way, right?
From 1 to 2%, sure.
The fact that me calling Trump a fascist, which I don't even call him very often, I call him authoritarian because there's less dispute over the definition of that word. The fact that that is being likened to fucking Trump calling for people to be killed is crazy. Is modern day debate even a big platform like Jubilee? It's definitely not a big platform like Jubilee, but it's more of like the online political commentary space, the online debate bro space. They watch it a lot. Like my debate with Andrew has, I think, almost 70,000 views now. And then this shit was funny to me. Hold on. What am I looking for? What is this thing called? The Crucible, right? I think it's... The fact that he had to post this AI image of me in the thumbnail, because there isn't one moment in the entire debate where I'm angry or upset. In fact, I spend at least half of the debate laughing in his face. And he spends a lot of the debate screaming, crashing out. So notice how the picture of him in the thumbnail is him from a different debate, and the picture of me is AI. Because if he used pictures from the actual debate, it would be him crashing out and me laughing at him. It's so funny. And I was like, does he often do this? And I go to his videos. Dude, I'm not seeing a single other thumbnail where he's done AI face to someone. Not one. Maybe sometimes he might use a picture of them from a different video other than the video they're being thumbnailed on. But where? I don't see a single other AI thumbnail anywhere. Ever. I think this is the first time he's ever done it. Which the fact that he had to go out of his way to do that, I feel like says so much about how he feels he did here. Where the picture of him is from a different video, and the picture of me is just not even real. It's like... Man. It's such a silly man. Truly silly man. Never seen you make that face ever. Bro, yeah, like what possibly could cause that facial expression? Have you ever been that mad? I don't even know, bro. You lost that debate. Okay, bro. You should do IRL interview debates at a Trump rally or Trump event in your area. I would love to do like a Charlie Kirk style table thing at like a conservative college campus, but that's a whole project. I might call it a night soon. I might. No more debate requests left. And we did get some funny debates tonight. Why do we have to tiptoe around a term that fits Trump extremely well? So my logic is like, I prefer calling Trump an authoritarian and saying he has fascistic tendencies, not because I don't think he's a fascist, and Trump is clearly a fascist, but because language is meant to be useful, and I think people have such disagreement on the definition of fascism. Authoritarianism is like a much less disputed term. So I'd rather just call him in colloquial settings a fascistic authoritarian, an authoritarian with fascistic tendencies, because it basically conveys the same thing without someone wanting to debate me on the meaning of the word fascism for fucking 2 hours before. But Trump is obviously a fascist. Yeah, you won't use the actual historical term of the definition. Andrew's definition is just doesn't work, right? Like he said ultranationalism means that the state takes priority even over religion. But in Italy, Mussolini flip-flopped on that. He went from being super anti, I think, Catholic Church to becoming buddy-buddy with the Catholic Church for political reasons. And the argument I made to Andrew, where I quoted Robert Paxton, who Andrew admitted is a very valid scholar himself, is that Paxton said, the ideas these people claim to have are a poor predictor of how they're actually going to govern, because fascists, unlike some other ideologies, will always sell out ideology for power. If they have to pick between being ideologically consistent and entrenching authoritarian power, they always pick authoritarian power. So going to a first-person source of someone who's writing a manifesto, trying to glaze fascism, trying to give it a veneer of ideology and intelligence, to go to that person for the definition seems a little bit silly to me. Now, can you take it into account? Sure. And scholars like Robert Paxton, who have spent upwards of a decade studying this question, they do take it into account. And Andrew admitted that. Right? Like, my video about this was just... Let me find it. Oh, he's in the yes box. Okay. Hey, how old are you? How old are you, real quick? Okay. My premise is that Trump meets the definition of fascism that I've provided. Well, Andrew's the one that wanted to debate my definition. You guys don't know the backstory to this debate. I asked to debate, is Trump an authoritarian? Andrew rejected that prompt 3 separate times, insisting that we debate, is Trump a fascist? I said that's a bit confusing because I almost never call Trump a fascist, specifically because the definition is so disputed. I usually call him an authoritarian, but Andrew refused to debate whether he's an authoritarian. So I said, okay, we can debate whether he's a fascist if we're debating what I meant when I said fascism, because that triggered Andrew enough where we wanted to debate it. And then Andrew said to the moderator, I accept that that is Adam's definition. He didn't accept it, though. So he just lied before the debate. It was a definition derived from scholars. It's not like arbitrary, right? Okay. No, and I referenced specifically why not. I just gave an example as well in Italy. No, because they're going to try to put a veneer of goodness and righteousness, right? Like, hold on. Do you dispute that fascists... Hold on. We're not going to leave this point. Do you think that fascists will accurately describe their ideology? I'm not asking whether they write it. They wouldn't try to hide the bad parts. I'm going to ask you again. Would they try to hide the bad parts with stuff like propaganda? Isn't that kind of the purpose of propaganda? So clearly, you can't just take a fascist at their word for what they want to do. It's complete non sequitur. It's complete non sequitur to what I'm talking about. There are certain, I wasn't vague. There are certain things that fascists want to do that they know when they are rising to power are not popular. So they're always going to cover that up with some kind of ideology or propaganda. And an example that I gave of that is Robert Paxton looked at this in Italy, and initially the Italian fascists said that we are super anti-Christianity, but then later on, when it became politically convenient, they exalted Christianity. According to Andrew, they were no longer ultra-nationalist after that because now they're exalting Christianity. They stopped cracking down on it. After cracking down on it, yeah. Relative to what it was before. Why are you not addressing the actual point? Why are you not addressing the actual point? No, you can change the topic after you address the point. You're pivoting, though. You're pivoting. Why are you pivoting from the argument? Why are you pivoting the argument? You're literally not addressing what I just said. I just said that what fascists claim their ideology is, you're not addressing what I'm saying. Yes, and what do you think I meant when I said that? Which is what? What am I meaning when I say that? You're just repeating my words. You're repeating my words. What did I mean? What did I mean? I'm asking you to interpret what I said. In this context. Okay. Wait, but hold on. Why did I say that? Let's not forget the context, which you're trying to run away from. Why did I say that? What point was I trying to make? Mm-hmm. He only cracked down a little bit less. That's what changed. I mean, what is your understanding of how the crackdown shifted since you're critiquing? Mm-hmm. You're not. Okay, after realizing he could not rule a deeply Catholic Italy while at war with the church, he performed a sudden 180 turn. In the 1920s, he reintroduced the crucifix to courtrooms, seems like he's exalting it, and made religious education mandatory, and famously signed the 1929 Lateran Accords. That seems like he shifted. Hold on, let me finish. That seems like he shifted to exalting it specifically because he realized that if he was at war with the church, his grip on power would slip. That seems like it's not the ideology, it's the pursuit of power. You can run from the point now. You agree that I'm correct then, right? We can't take fascists at their word because whatever they claim to believe is just the presentation they're giving to the public. And what they actually believe is what they do, not what they say. Oh, it's written down. I'll write something else down. Does that make it real? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying their written word is not sufficient. Their written word is not sufficient. Their written word is not sufficient to determining what they are. Sometimes it'll line up with what they are, and other times it won't. It depends on what you mean by fascism, right? 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 You're saying who determines who's a fascist? Hold on. You're saying who determines who's a fascist? That depends on what we mean by fascist, right? Depends on what we mean by fascist, right? Does it or does it not? Invite you to unmute. Yes, because you tried shushing me. Same thing. I'm going to ask you again. Answer the question. Just answer the question. Simple question. I make plenty of money without you. A simple question. Yes or no question. Yes or no question. Simple question. Not even a gotcha question. Why aren't you answering? Why aren't you answering? Why aren't you answering? You said, who determines whether someone's a fascist? I said, depends what you mean by fascist in that context, right? 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 It depends on what we mean by fascism, correct? Okay, great. Do you acknowledge that there are over a dozen different definitions of fascism? The person using it in the context in which they're using it? Right, and we talk about people who are tankies or people who are like anarcho-communists. Yeah, there's differences there. I'm not a communist, okay? Oh, if we're talking about the classical definition, okay.
Okay, and there's this neo definition or anything else is written on that. Wouldn't an in-group decide, or whoever's part of that group decides whether someone's a fascist or not? So say, for example, there's like a ton of definitions. So say, for example,
what are you saying?
So for example, basically being a fascist, you're part of a group, right? Like you're like the person who owns a label.
It's a description. Right? So the group, it's a description of like a socio-political phenomenon.
Created by who?
A movement and a leader. It's like I don't believe in great man theory.
Okay,
right? So it's a self-reinforcing system.
So there is a movement and there would be a leader, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so if they're active, they would be the ones to determine whether someone's a fascist or not.
What do you mean if they're active?
So if there is a active fascist group correct right now, right, they'd be like, he's one of us.
Well,
or he
you're
is
assuming that they would call themselves fascists or see themselves as
would
fascists.
They not call themselves fascists? You see them. So
because of the stigma?
If they don't see themselves as that. So if they don't see themselves as fascists, somebody else who's not a fascist will tell them that they're a fascist. Yeah, so somebody else, so it's up to someone like you. So it's up to someone like you to label somebody else.
If someone has like schizophrenia, then someone who doesn't have schizophrenia is going to tell them you have people who are not directly experiencing something can make evaluations. What are you talking about?
But you could also make up definitions. Like there's also like supposed to be like some consensus, and also on top of that, when we're talking about,
I opened my debate by saying there's literally no consensus on what fascism means, which is why it was weird that Andrew wanted to debate it.
There is no consensus. Well, what? How can? Well, there's literally like a living document. Like, isn't that enough? Otherwise, you're just making
when the document doesn't coincide with how fascists behave, it's not enough. That's why we have studies, we have historians, right? And Andrew himself said, and I quote, "There are no ifs, ands, or buts. Paxton is legit. He's not a political hack. He really has studied fascism." Andrew accepted his authority.
I don't know who Andrew Paxton. I don't even know
Robert Paxton. He's like considered the biggest scholar of fascism in the world.
Okay, I mean, sure. I mean, it's. If what you're pretty much just saying is that like there's a document but we won't believe it, so we'll just like make something up.
You're straw man.
Okay, so you don't. So you.
I said the primary document is not sufficient. You know what sufficient means?
It's not sufficient.
You know what sufficient means?
So what is sufficient is to kind of like. What is sufficient for you then?
There's only one thing sufficient means here, so tell me what
let's get to the chase. Do you think?
No. You're not running from this. You're not running from this. There's only one thing I could mean here by sufficient. When I say,
it's kind of funny that things are convenient.
When I
get this, you're alive. I'm also making you money.
When I say that the fascist writings of Giovanni Gentile are not sufficient in defining fascism, there's only one thing that could mean. What does that mean?
It means you want to stick to a narrative that you prefer.
Is that a joke?
No, I'm being literal.
That's what sufficient means.
Did you find that funny? Did you find that insulting? Is that why you said that?
I found it a little funny.
I think you found that insulting.
So insulting. Yeah, I'm furious. I'm just gonna ask you
if
again.
you found it funny, you didn't have to ask me if it was a joke.
I couldn't tell if you were doing like a meme, like a sarcastic meme, or if you were being serious. So peeved. Furious. Wait, can you answer that though? Okay, I'm gonna try to calm down. It's about to turn into the fucking Hulk. Can you answer now? Yeah, fact of the matter. Matter of the fact was fact of the matter, yeah. Okay. I respect people who are deserving of respect. So, I don't know why that would apply here. I'm going to ask you again, what does sufficient mean in that situation? Is that like a talking point, or do you believe that's what sufficient means? It doesn't sound like you'd even think that. It sounds like you're like joking or being sarcastic. Stuff like what? No, but that's not what sufficient means, right? No, it sounds like you're just arguing for the sake of arguing because there's no way you think that's what sufficient means. How about you don't give a stupid answer to a simple question? And we could continue. But you didn't tell me what it meant, though. You just made up a completely random definition. You just made something up. That's not what sufficient means. You never defined what sufficient means. I think everyone in the chat understands. If I'm saying that the writings of Giovanni Gentile are not sufficient to define fascism, I think everyone here knows what that means. How about you stop debating in bad faith and answer the question? Yeah, but you were wrong about what sufficient means, so I'm giving you another opportunity to define what it means. To define what sufficient means in that context, because I'll give you a hint. You were wrong about the first one. I don't even know what you're saying right now. My question is very simple. Why is it going nowhere? You like Andrew? You're a fan of Andrew? Okay, I'm noticing a lot of similarities in the style, but that's fine. You're doing a good impersonation of him. I'm just going to ask you. You know what? I won't ask you. I'll just tell you because you probably don't know what it means. Sufficient means it's not enough. Doesn't mean it's not relevant. Of course it's relevant, but it's not enough to define fascism. And it's enough for you. Well, I'm not a scholar. So I'm going to appeal to experts. When I have a pain in my side, I don't take a plastic fork and do surgery on myself, right? I'm going to go ask a doctor. Okay. So with the social science, could I not do that? With the social science, could I not do that? You're not answering my question. I'm just saying, why can't we appeal to experts in fields? I don't care if you know who he is. No, Andrew said he was great. Andrew said he was super legit. Okay, but you're commenting on our debate, right? You're commenting on our debate? That's where this all started? Yes. Okay, so then maybe you're making the same argument as Andrew for different reasons. Andrew also said that, oh, this definition is just your definition. After giving credit to the guy I got the definition from, maybe you don't agree with Andrew on that. What's your reason then? Okay. It was long.
To literally Nazi Germany.
Okay, thanks for sharing. It's not why I call him one. I know the Nazis were fascists. The reincarnation of Hitler? Can we get a show of hands for that? I've never heard that before. Hitler was first of all popular. He was more intelligent than Trump. He was more successful in his political career than Trump was. So, yeah. Yeah. So I think you can call someone a fascist without saying that they're literally Hitler. That's why we have a word called fascism. I just think he's a fascist. No. Very different. He's very different from Hitler. He's authoritarian, but his ideology is like Hitler had a very extreme ideology, which was totally different. That's arbitrary, and this is a silly question. I don't know what the Hitler scale is, and there's standardized units of measurement there, so I don't know what the fuck you want me to say. No, I understand that 0 is not at all and 10 is, but like the gradient there is like, what are we doing? I don't think there's a Hitler scale. I don't know what that means. I said to Andrew that when I call Trump a fascist, I'm not calling for violence. If I was comparing him to Hitler, I would say violence against Hitler is very justified. You agree, right? So if I'm saying that there's not violence justified there, am I comparing him to Hitler? I don't accept that premise. I don't know what that means. No, because I don't think it makes sense to be doing relative comparisons like this between a leader from the mid-20th century and someone in the early 21st century. They're not apples-to-apples comparisons. No, my audience and I probably see parallels between how Trump is trying to rise to power and how Hitler rose to power. That's different than saying he is Hitler, right? YouTube.
Your audience.
This is just an arbitrary random question.
And then would they all drop off?
You're just appealing to random people in my audience that you don't even know?
Well, they make you money. So, like,
okay.
Do you believe that you will have will there be a commercial interest for people to believe that you think that he's closer to Hitler than not? And that do you think you'll lose money?
I have said here and multiple times that I don't think it makes sense to compare Trump to Hitler. Hitler killed millions of people, and Trump hasn't.
Okay. Yeah, but like someone like Mar has the bravery saying, like, calling him like literally a fascist and stuff.
He is a fascist.
Ridiculous. And okay, so like, is this
not every fascist is Hitler?
Like not every. Sure, I mean Mussolini is not right, but like he's Hitler adjacent. Like he would ally with Hitler, right?
Okay.
Like so much so that he put like the lives of his countrymen, right? Okay. So like, is that mean that? Like that's what I mean. Would he ally with Hitler? Align with Hitler?
I have no clue.
If there's another war or whatever.
I have no clue.
Right. That's why I'm asking. Like 0 to 10, would he be like?
I have no clue.
No, screw you, Hitler. You're a racist piece of shit. This is what Donald Trump would say to like Hitler.
I have no clue about this fan fiction scenario where Trump is meeting Hitler for some
I
negotiation.
mean, you're confident enough to call him a fascist.
Yes.
So like,
and
if he's a fascist,
proclamation has nothing to do with him meeting Hitler.
And since we're on the topic of imagining what people like think, like what do you mean
imagining what people think?
I mean, like you're kind of like, let's not like go with what's written about what's defined as a fascist. Let's talk about
when did I say we have to imagine
invisible intentions are.
You just put words in my mouth.
It sounds like imagination to me.
Inference sounds like imagination.
So like, okay,
the study of history sounds like imagination.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's get close. Okay, let's zoom in on this. So the study of history, since you probably did you study about Hitler and fascism and all that type of stuff?
No, I haven't claimed to study history, so I appeal to historians. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So where do you think, because you're talking about policy and stuff, where do you think he's closer to Hitler? Are we talking about like
why are you so obsessed with Hitler?
I want to know what your position is.
You're the only person to bring up his name in this entire conversation.
No, I'm bringing you up.
I've never said Hitler in that debate once.
I know, but like Hitler is the embodiment of fascism, correct?
In your perception,
do you think people think? Okay, do you think that when people think fascism, they think Hitler?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so when people.
Wait, because people think that means that we can't ever call someone else a fascist unless they're very similar to Hitler?
Where you stand, because it sounds like you're more nuanced and you're probably more smarter than your audience, because your audience probably thinks it's the same.
I
correct?
think I represent what most of my audience thinks here.
Okay, do you believe that anybody who thinks that as someone who's a fascist who associates with Hitler, it's kind of like dumb, like it's not the same thing?
No, I think anyone who thinks Trump's a fascist?
No. If anybody thinks a fascist means Hitler, or even Jared,
if they think it just means Hitler, then it's not what fascism means.
So if somebody thinks that if someone thinks Hitler or Hitler adjacent, when I think fascism, they're probably misinformed, correct? From your position?
If someone thinks of Hitler when they think of fascism?
No, if they think fascism, they think if you say fascism or anybody else says fascism and they think Hitler, right? They're misinformed.
That makes sense. He's like the most famous fascist of all time.
Okay, but like if you call somebody fascist and they think therefore that person's associated with Hitler or Hitler adjacent, they're misinformed, correct?
Misinformed
because that's what they would think of you.
Well, hold on. They'd be in the same category. They'd be in the same category as Hitler.
Wait. So if somebody thinks that you call Trump fascist and you're pretty much the thing they think about is, oh, you're calling him Hitler adjacent, would that be misinformed? Would they be misinformed?
They'd be jumping to conclusions.
Okay, but they would be misinformed.
It would be crazy to think that, considering that Hitler is a fascist.
Okay, there we go. So
that's why I would want to clarify my position in a conversation with them, right?
Okay. So that's why I want to clarify I want to help you out here, like figure out your position.
My position's been clear since my opening statement in the debate with Andrew.
Then let me restate it. Okay. For your audience and for today's side. Okay. You're basically saying that if you believe that someone's a fascist and somebody, in your words, somebody thinks that you're declaring this person's Hitler, it's crazy. Correct?
I think it's understandable, but it's not what I'd be meaning.
But it'd be crazy. That's what you said. You thought it was crazy. I
just said the opposite. Right. I think it makes sense to think of Hitler when I call someone a fascist.
Okay, so if you call somebody a fascist, yes, and they think that you mean Hitler, it's crazy. It's not right.
It's a reasonable thing to assume that Hitler is the most famous fascist of all time.
But it's okay. But it is.
But then
also,
I would clarify.
That can be. Both things can be true. Correct. So they can also think. Okay. Well, both things that it could be crazy wrong or misinformed. Right? It could be both misinformed, and you understand why.
It could be a reasonable inference and also incorrect.
It could be a reasonable or inference that's misinformed, correct?
Incorrect, yeah. Not misinformed. They're informed on the biggest fascist of all time. It's not crazy. It's reasonable, but not correct.
You were to say that.
It's reasonable, but not correct.
It's incorrect. Okay, so anybody who says anybody who believes in general that when somebody's called or labeled a fascist, the fact that they think that they're associated with Hitler,
very reasonable assumption to make.
They're probably incorrect.
Incorrect about what?
They would make assumption. They're making an incorrect assumption.
About what?
Oh, I just said so. Like I just said, if somebody is labeled as a fascist.
Well, it depends who's doing the labeling, because then we'd have to go into what they mean when they say fascist.
Okay, so in general, at large.
Well, no, you can't generalize. People are going to have different definitions of words.
Of course you could generalize it, because what that means
with
is
a word that has over 24 distinct definitions.
They're probably coming in, right? They're probably coming in with an assumption that could probably be false.
No, in my case, if I call someone a fascist, yeah. But if someone else says it, they could mean Hitler.
Okay, so what do you think most people believe when they basically think somebody's a fascist?
I don't think they have a very high resolution. I think they have like vague connections they draw in their head.
I usually don't like to use the word bad faith, but I think you really know what I mean, and I think you are actually like defending, like trying to avoid this question.
You disagree that when people hear the word fascist, they don't have a strict definition. They just think of random associations and people and concepts.
They think a strong association with Hitler. They basically.
How does that negate what I just said? That was so bad faith.
Well,
I said they don't have a strict definition. They just have a bunch of associations in their head.
Yes,
they think Hitler. They think dictatorship.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say is that, like, if that's what most people say, and you know this clearly, and you're calling him a fascist, this sounds like a kind of like You're not standing on.
Wait. Why was this the topic of the debate? I didn't ask the debate whether Trump's a fascist. I don't even call him that ever.
Okay, but like
I asked the debate, is Trump an authoritarian? And Andrew rejected that debate prompt 3 times and said, I will only debate Adam if he defends Trump being a fascist. And I was like, that's weird. I don't really call Trump a fascist that often. So I went back and I counted since I started blowing up in March of 2024 all the way up until now. I called Trump a fascist up until this debate less than 10 times total in my entire career online.
So do you want Okay.
Specifically because the definition is so disputed. So isn't it weird that Andrew really wanted to debate me on that and not whether Trump's an authoritarian? Isn't that weird?
I have no idea. I mean, look, Andrew does a lot of things that I think are kind of weird. He's like constantly chain smoking, but I don't watch him a lot, so I don't know. Okay. But
no, if I believed he was Hitler or Jason, I think you should probably unalive him, which I don't. What view? People that want to unalive Donald Trump? That's fucking stupid and horrible. How many people on the left do you think want to go and unalive Donald Trump? Well, if they thought that, then they want to unalive him. So maybe you're saying you don't like hyperbolic rhetoric from some people on the left. I don't really mind. That's not what when there's people acting fascistically, I'm not going to complain about the person who called him Hitler-like. That's not really my biggest concern. My bigger concern is people being executed in the streets, actually. That's probably what I'm going to be focused on. Thank you, Willie Sleepy, for the unicorn fantasy. I don't know what that is, but thank you. Go ahead. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, me neither. That's fine. I don't feel
where you could say, okay, well, I'm telling you what my intention is. So like what I'm trying to, let me try to backtrack here.
I think if you listen to my opening statement in the debate, my definition and why I use that word would make 110% sense. Andrew never paid attention to it, and I'm guessing a lot of people that are right of center, they didn't really pay attention to my opening statement. They just heard me call Trump a fascist, like this silly fucking stupid leftist. That was the extent of their engagement with my argument, right?
Yeah, but you defend it, so I'm trying to clarify. Okay, if you think he's a fascist, do you think he's Hitler or Jason? And do you think that? And then you're saying no, right? And I'm like, okay, cool.
Oh, wait.
Let's clarify.
Okay. I didn't realize Willie sent that gift for me to kick you out of here. My bad, Willie. I didn't realize that at first. And yes, I want to apologize to the YouTube audience. My desktop audio capture just always pauses for some reason, and then I have to refresh it. But what I'm going to do is take the debates from today, clip them up into whatever they are, 10, 20, 30 minutes long for each debate, and then take the live recording from TikTok and extract the audio, which is going to be consistent, and then overlay that onto the video for the debate. So you can still watch these debates back. I'll upload all three. Hold on. Wow. Not a single not a single Andrew Wilson supporter that can explain why I lost that debate. It's funny. Okay, maybe that's the end of the live for today. Hey, how old are you?
Oh no, I just need to talk to Tony. I agree with you.
Oh, okay. No
I just
worries.
wanted to yeah.
Okay.
No problem.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching. Did you see Tallarico beat Crockett by millions in Q4 funding? I did not see that. I did not see that. They are concerned about being associated with fascism. Yeah, and it's like, this is why I don't often use the word fascist, which is that I think anyone who really tries to understand what scholars think of this, it's like fascism is like a style of engaging in politics. It's not just like a set of ideological goals, but I feel like when I use the word fascist to describe Trump, 10 different people take away 11 different meanings from that. So for colloquial conversation's sake, I would probably, like what I say most often is, like what I have here, Trump is an authoritarian with fascistic tendencies, right? Same general meaning. W, host for paying to have people removed. That's a brilliant grift. W, thank you. Thank you. Hey, Aldi. Today we saw the full gamut of what exists in MAGA. That's all that's left, is those types of people and the guy that just made the farting noise. Talrico has an entire policy platform out now on his website. I will have to take a look at that. At least it wasn't the best argument. If honestly, true. That was the best argument I've heard today. Not sending their best. They're certainly not sending their best. Might call it a night. Before it gets too late. Oh, wow. As soon as I say that, we have 2 people on the guest requests. That's crazy. Okay, state your purpose. 2 a.m. Cashbot and Nico. State your purpose in the chat. Debate on what? Okay, if we can do a quick debate. Hey, how old are you? How old are you? And do you support Trump? And do you see the prompt on the screen above me? And which one did you want to chat about today? Engaging in extremely corrupt business deals where he is basically pardoning people who are using his cryptocurrency.